part of the March 5th, 2024 regular meeting of the BOT. We'll go right into the agenda. Go right into consent agenda. We have two things on consent. Any questions, clarifying questions for Miranda on either of these?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Macy?
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
and Trustee Sterling.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then when you're ready, Macy, if you could go fill us in on the 2024 municipal election update.
Sure. Okay, so Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024 is the next regular municipal election. I've been providing ongoing updates at the board meetings. There is not much to add since the last time that we discussed the updates, except that the ballots will be mailed to all other registered voters on March 11th. They have already been mailed to Uwakava voters, so they will be mailed to all other registered voters on March 11th.
Any questions for Macy? Thanks, Macy. Appreciate it. With that, we'll be moving on to our action items. We have 3 action items tonight. The first one is the Planning Commission vacancy appointment. We have 2 applicants, I believe. Miranda.
Yep. So tonight before you is an appointment to the Planning Commission. Unfortunately, Chris Rivera had to resign from his role with the Planning Commission. So there is a vacancy that we're seeking to fill. Commissioner Rivera submitted his resignation on January 24th, with his last day actually being February 29th. So was able to do 2 final Planning Commission meetings with us, which we greatly appreciate. We released the applications on Wednesday, January 31st, with a due date of February 21st, so our standard 3-week time period. We received 2 applications for the 1 vacancy. Both the applicants are available for questions, and they are Nederland residents. So we have Max Ovett and Elizabeth Penzner. Sorry, Elizabeth. So tonight we really just want to know, who are you interested in appointing? And we would encourage you to ask both applicants questions prior to making that decision. Whoever is appointed, because they are serving a partial term, their term would end June of 2026.
June of when? What year? I'm sorry.
June 1st of 2026. So it's a 2-year term.
Thank you. Okay. We want you guys to introduce yourselves. Elizabeth, if you'd like to go first, introduce yourself and kind of give us a statement of why you'd like to be on the Planning Commission.
Mayor Billy, can I just really quick, for those online, it appears that we're having video issues, so those online cannot see anyone in the room at this time.
Thank you. Elizabeth, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I don't know. Come on up. If you want, you can come right to that little podium. And there's a little green or a little black microphone there. And at the base of it's a button. Just hit the button, you'll see a green LED light turn on, and you got to talk fairly close to the mic.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Good evening. And thank you for the opportunity to potentially serve the Planning Commission. I think if I were to offer why I'm interested and what I hope to contribute, it would be both my professional background and experience and my personal values. So despite limited board experience, I have served on a board many years ago. I come from an academic background, and much of that is research coordination, project management, development of projects, as well as all the way through to oversight and evaluation of those projects. For 7 years, I was also a small business owner in a foreign country. So that really involved navigating a lot of complicated waters and diplomacy and just navigating being new to somewhere and contributing. And the best way to integrate for me as an outsider is to get involved. So that's why I'm here, because I do want to be part of the community. First visited Ned in 1994, spent my summers at Sundance Cafe, and really hold personal values toward preservation of the things that we love about the community, but also want to see sustainable growth and most importantly, from a personal value perspective, value compromise and respectful communication. So for me, that's a lot of listening. It starts with listening and ends with listening. And I hope to contribute in that way. And thank you for your time and consideration.
Do you mind staying there in the hot spot for a minute while we as folks might have questions for you?
Sure. Public speaking is not my strong suit.
That's all right. It won't need to be. It won't need to be on the planning commission either.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for putting your hat in the ring for this. My question is, just to clarify, have you applied for or applied for a board or run for office in Nederland before?
No,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to check.
thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Do you, how much do you know about the current downtown redevelopment plans?
I've been following as much as I can through some community engagement. I've attended the Mountaineer Community Forum platform for listening and learning and kind of just stay online and read a lot, but I'm not personally a business owner in the downtown district. I do know about the Teens Inc. plans or the property plans, as well as short-term rental policy and revisions to those policies, and just try to stay informed on the different projects through Board of Trustee attendee meetings online. I attend virtually, so yeah, not an expert, but I feel well-versed and prepared to contribute.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
And if you had a chance to look over the housing study we just finished, are you familiar with that?
Yes, and I did attend the last Planning Commission meeting as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a fascinating survey.
Stick around.
Thank you.
Do you have hi, Elizabeth, thanks for applying. And yeah, I'm happy you're in town and in the neighborhood. Do you have a sort of a philosophy of growth and development for Nederland?
I think as I alluded to, moments ago, it really is about sustainable growth and preservation of values, and also not having necessarily a personal agenda, but being willing to serve what may be best for the community by listening to multiple perspectives and engaging stakeholders from a variety of perspectives. And I think that's one of the things I lend to the process of advising. An advisory committee isn't really about what I want for the town. So I want to be involved and civically engaged and to be part of the process.
Really happy you're here, and I feel like you can make some great contributions. And yeah, look forward to working with you in any capacity.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just ask, can you dig a little deeper into sustainable growth? Like, how would you define that?
I think I define that by understanding really what the priorities are and the values for town, so for me, for sure, one of the things that I feel will help the town grow in a positive way is affordable housing. And I think part of that is for employment for people to, we want this community to be with people who can afford to live here and work here. So I do think growth in providing opportunities for people to stay in Ned and to thrive in Ned. And then also, I also support the childcare increase and providing opportunities for families to grow and to create businesses that sustain here as well. So I don't know if I have a real direct vision in terms of decision making at this point. It's really about listening and finding compromise and hearing what the community thinks is best for the direction of the,
Great, thank you. Tanya, do you have any questions for Elizabeth?
Not really. I'm curious how long she's been living in the town of Ned currently.
I just moved here last summer full-time, so I've been an owner here since 2019. And I've been in Boulder since the 90s and Boulder County since 2015.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate you stepping up.
Glad to be part. Hope I can serve.
Thank you, and yeah, we may ask you to come up
Hold on,
later.
I haven't asked a question. Is that
Oh,
okay?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
okay.
No, definitely, sorry, Nicole.
So one of the things that I like to look at is how a skill set will round out the rest of the board. And, I can look at your resume and I can look at your work history, but you've chimed into it, or you've turned into a couple of sessions of the Planning Commission and everything. So where do you see your skill set helping to diversify the perspective and complementing it?
I guess the two biggest contributions I feel like I can offer are, and I don't know if this is the right term, but kind of a worker bee attitude. Like I really want to dig in and contribute. I'm good at report preparation, project development, of creating evaluation, contributing to marketing and content development in terms of project management. I feel like I have a lot to offer. And then the second piece would just be this real commitment and dedication toward putting the town's interests ahead of my own and to respectful and mindful communication and lending that listening, communicating perspective, which I really hope would be the two contributions, both from a, skill set as well from that communication perspective.
Thanks.
Yeah.
A quick question. Can you tell us what your academic focus is?
I'm in genetic research. So I work with two programs. One is more toward later life dementia, Huntington's and CADASIL, two dementia diseases. And then at CU, I work with adoption studies and twin studies. So all in the area of genetic research. And my business ownership was in health and wellness. I owned a yoga studio for 7 years, and my background's in public health and health promotion. So kind of a diverse background.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll
you.
go ahead and hear from Max. And does it, any more questions, actually? We'll go, thank you. We'll hear from Max, and we may call you back up for more questions. Max, are you out there? Don't either. Max, we have one call-in user. Try *6 on your phone if that's you, Max. We cannot hear you.
Miranda, did Max say he was going to attend today?
Yeah, let me see if I can track him down.
Thank you. Perfect. Right now. Log-
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Elizabeth Helsner to the Planning Commission seat. Damn it.
I second that.
I guess I'm just wondering, do you still want me to try and call him? I mean, I want to be.
Jesse's on the
I'm
phone
sorry.
with him. Jesse's on the phone with him right now.
Okay.
Planning Commission need to be on this.
It involves planning.
Well, let's all.
I have a question if Planning Commission makes a recommendation or not. Don't they usually?
So the planning commission actually is the one board that chooses not to make a recommendation for you all. They would just prefer the Board of Trustees to make the decision.
I'm the only one on the planning commission that can participate, I guess.
What I will tell you is that both Elizabeth and Max were a part of the planning commission meeting for February, so they did witness the discussions there, but the planning commission did not review them as applicants.
So we have a motion and a second.
We have not had done public comment. I'm going to give Max a couple minutes, folks. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a great idea. We're going to go ahead and go to public comment. We've heard from Elizabeth. We hope to hear from Max soon. We'll go with the folks in the room. Does anyone have a public comment on our appointee to the Planning Commission tonight? No one in the room. Does anyone online have a public comment about our appointee to the Planning Commission? Seeing no hands raised, we will bring it back to the board. I'll give him 1 minute and then we'll move forward.
I'll make a comment. Can we
Thank you
deliberate
very
now?
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I agree that, you know, attendance to the meetings is worthy of weighing heavily into our decision-making. So I'd say there's a strong point to be made in Elizabeth's favor at the moment. With that said, I think it'd be courteous of us to see if Max can throw a Hail Mary and see what he can say for us. He says he's on.
I see a call-in user too. Great, go ahead, Max. I can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I had it on my calendar for Wednesday. I read the date wrong on the email, and that's why I'm not there. I would walk over because I'm quite close. I just didn't realize, and I appreciate Jesse for texting me and including me. But I understand, like, if you guys want to give me the boot because I'm not there and I missed it on my calendar, then I'll take the boot, and that is what it is. I'm not going to say anything about that. Learned to not argue that one pretty heavily. Actually, that was from a segue from engineering school, is when you fail, and you don't get a second chance. So that's the word. And so I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear me out. As far as my background goes, structural engineering background, work daily in asset management for a company called Trimble, helping DOTs around the states as well as transportation organizations around the world how to better manage their assets, from roadways to signs to guardrails to bridge infrastructure, all of those fun items we don't typically think about unless we are part of the community or part of the board, and having to have an idea of how to plan and organize and best spend funding and make sure we're zoning correctly for all the different things. I know we all chatted, for those of you who are on the board. I was there last time in front of the board, applying for the BOT appointment. So you guys do, I imagine, remember some of my background and answers from previous, but that is my background. And as far as I still want to be a part of the community, I want to help the community in, planning and do my part. And so that's why I'm putting forward an application to be part of the Planning Commission.
Thanks, Max. Any questions for Max?
Max, I'm desperately trying to think of a question to ask you. It's not because I'm disinterested in your application that I'm not asking you a question, but I don't have one at this time.
No, you're good.
I'll throw in one. So you've got a background in civil engineering. How do you see that applying to your role in the planning commission?
Background in civil engineering, master's in structural engineering. I have had to read and interpret codes and look at, how do we put the infrastructure together, plus my time with Exponent doing forensic engineering and analysis. I spent hours looking at building codes, the IRC, the IBC, trying to understand how do we design to best practices, thinking about how is this language being interpreted so that the most can get usability out of it. On the time with Exponent doing forensic engineering, it was learning how to pull it apart. Anything you can sue and litigate about, we had our hands in, and we were looking at how do we pull apart the IBC or the IRC, the International Residency Code or the International Building Code, so that we can understand what is at fault and how something was supposed to be constructed based off of the code. Let's say, interpreting that, understanding the legality and the rules that's going into into documents, and that looking into that detail and, understanding that's the view that these documents can be interpreted to would be something that I'd bring to the Planning Commission.
I came up with one.
Yeah.
So stepping aside from kind of code language and, because sometimes the Planning Commission is actually in the business of writing new code rather than simply interpreting code. So that requires a different kind of decision-making process. It's a little bit more open-ended and a little bit more philosophical and maybe a little bit more values-based. So I'm wondering what your decision-making process would be in that capacity on the Planning Commission.
Would you have an example of?
Yeah, if we were to write a new animal ordinance, for instance, on the keeping of animals, domestic and otherwise, right? Like how would you go about crafting policy for the town? What would be your decision-making process?
I would look to see if we have anything in the past, what we have done in the past historically, as well as towns that are similar in size of us, so that we could understand, okay, this is what towns that are in similar scope and size to Nederland have done, and then have a discussion with the board, have a discussion with constituents to understand what is it we're trying to get out of doing with providing some type of new code around having livestock or animals in town or outside of town and so forth. So it'd really be more of a discussion to hopefully coalesce and bring together a code that accurately represents the community in the hope. At the same time, we're not going to step on toes. Someone's going to be mad. That's just kind of the nature of it. But I would hope to avoid a lot of them.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah.
Tanya, do you have any questions for Max?
No, I just have more of a statement. Like if this was a job, like a paying job, and your resume speaks more towards the job. You understand code, you understand engineering, you understand building. What led you to move to Nederland? Where did you come from before?
I was originally living in Georgia, born and raised in Georgia. I was there for 26 years. Then got tired of flying out to see my brother and sister-in-law, my brother Sam and my sister-in-law Jenna, and pulling red eyes every month. So moved out here 4 years ago, and then moved up to Ned for access. I want access to the outdoors, being able to climb in Boulder Canyon in 8 minutes right out my front door to Magnolia and go East Mag, West Mag, Sugar Mag, go up into the Indian Peaks and access to the Rocky. Being able to go up to Caribou and ski is really, work and I like to play, and it's easier if I'm close to access so I can play harder and still keep up my work life.
That sounds like a great reason to be here.
Thanks, Tanya. Any other questions for Max? Yeah, Max, I have one, like what, guess you kind of, that you set yourself apart, kind of what you bring specifically, you already talked about, but what are your ideas of how do you describe good growth, good planning and good
Sustainable.
growth? How do you
Sustainable.
describe sustainable growth?
Done right. I mean, sustainable growth.
Just a little more granular.
Yeah. Trying to think of how I'd put words to it. In that, we need to plan for the future, but we also need to understand that the future is now. And with that, we need to make sure we're doing what we're sustainably growing and getting our infrastructure up to par so we know what's coming down the line, but also being able to grow for now to help address our needs with affordable housing, to help address just the overall housing need in Netherlands, to help address our aging water infrastructure. There's things that, we need to look in the future, but we also need to look at now. Sustainable growth is looking to see where we're projected to go, and then, understanding that, and then hopefully planning for today as well. I guess is where I would put words to.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Max? Okay. Thanks, Max. We may have more, but just stay on the line.
Yeah, I can come over too. I completely missed the fact that I just.
That's all right. You're good from there. So now we'll just go for discussion.
I like them both. Hard to say. I mean, tough choice, I think.
Yeah, I really appreciate that this is not Max's first time trying to contribute to town, that Max has applied to be on the BOT for appointment and is now applying for planning commission. So that kind of regular persistence in applying, I think, is something that should be considered because it demonstrates that kind of commitment to wanting to do it. Not being here today, obviously, doesn't demonstrate that, but I don't think it's the most egregious offense. Also, obviously, Max's background in civil engineering is extremely interesting for the Planning Commission. And having had the chance also to speak with Max about those sorts of things, he's very knowledgeable and obviously could bring a lot to the table in that regard, especially when judging applications against our code. I think that's something that he would excel at. And then on the other side of things, Elizabeth's philosophy, values-based approach, this idea that this is service and not a way to exercise personal agenda. I think that is extremely compelling to me. And, while I think Max's background is more applicable to the job at hand, I don't think anything in the job is so complex that it can't be learned while doing it. So, I mean, I would love to have either of these folks on the Planning Commission. I'm not going to, die on any hill defending either of them or supporting one over the other. Yeah. That's my feelings on the matter. So, ambivalence.
Okay. Other trustees?
Wish we could have both.
Often it's the case.
Can we kick someone else off the Planning Commission?
That's going to come back. That's going to come back to you.
I'll die on the hill.
Yeah.
I'll be looking for Britt's
New de-
recommendation.
New definition of lame duck. Yeah.
Can someone with a little bit more background and experience on the current the makeup of the current planning commission speak to how either one of these two applicants' skill sets would, is currently represented by the existing board and or the existing commission, or?
I can.
Yeah.
I'm on the planning commission. First of all, there aren't any engineers on the planning commission. It's a board of novices, just like we are. That's not where we all came in. That said, I'd like to see some diversity on the board. We don't, I'd like to see diversity on all of our boards, which we don't have enough of. And I've watched Elizabeth come into many things that she didn't have to be at and show up and make valuable contributions. I can attest that she's a really good listener because when I talk with her afterwards, she can tell me in pretty good detail what we talked about and what her thoughts are. So yeah, diversity means something to me on our boards. I think it's something we're going to have to work on. And so I'd lean towards Elizabeth.
Thanks for explaining the logic. Other trustees?
I'm going to give a +1 to Elizabeth on this one. I think diverse perspectives means a lot of other things too. Like in addition to gender and perspective, having someone in public health, it's a different angle, right? It's not engineering. That's okay. And the fact that she showed up, and oftentimes those who show up, they show up for a reason. They want something. So they're eager, they're hungry. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Tanya, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm always torn. I think Max's resume would be, if I was like, just picking off resumes, I would pick Max, but again, with what Tom has been saying, that and he actually has personal interaction with Elizabeth, and he's the one that's going to be working with her, I would go with his recommendation, and with no offense to Max either, because it's always so hard to pick people. It feels like when you choose somebody, you're rejecting the other, and it isn't that really. I mean, in my mind, but that is the outcome. So I guess I would go with Tom's recommendation, but at the same time, if Max was nominated, I would also vote for him. So I'm not being very helpful, but that's it.
One thing I can add, one person on the commission has expressed an intention to stay through the comprehensive plan and probably not stay on the board after that. So that's in the immediate future. Max, a standby.
Well, I guess I have one question, and it's about commitment, because we get so much of this where people are really excited to work and then things come up and they have to quit. I would hate for us to be in the situation 6 months from now because one of our applicants here has decided to resign. So I just want to stress that really this is a commitment, and that's all.
Can I also just add, Miranda, that we have a vacancy on the Board of Zoning Adjustment that we've been struggling to fill. We have now both a regular vacancy and an alternate. And so maybe if one of the candidates was open, that type of appointment could occur tonight. And the only reason I would feel comfortable doing that is that we've had these BZA vacancies posted historically and no applicants.
Good play, Miranda. Nice catch.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Miranda. And I'm the liaison to the BCA.
Right, and then you'll soon be gone and we'll need new board liaison. So it would be nice if the board felt comfortable doing kind of maybe a dual appointment.
Maybe the applicants want to say whether.
Rochambeau?
So what I will say is Elizabeth did submit for both, which I really appreciated. However, only one planning commissioner can hold a seat on the BZA, and that's already occupied by Roger Cornell. So whoever you appoint to the planning commission can't also be on the BZA at this time, so you'd want to make sure you do one to each.
Okay.
Max?
Is Roger an alternate or a full member on the BZA?
It's an alternate, but
Yeah.
either way, you can't have more than one planning
PC.
commissioner serving on the BZA, even though he's an alternate.
Got it.
Max, are you open to an appointment at the BZA?
I would be open to that.
They meet about once every 3 months, if that often.
Max, that was my gateway drug to town government.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Mine too. More questions, or more, just want to hear what everyone's thinking first.
Yeah,
Before we move any farther on this.
I have one more question just to follow up on Tanya's comment about commitment, longevity. I would post to both of the candidates, just, where do you see yourself in relation to Nederland in 5 years?
Max, why don't you go ahead, because you have a microphone in front of you, and Elizabeth, you can come on up if you want, Elizabeth, and just be ready.
Hoping to live here. I mean, that's my plan, unless work for some reason forces me elsewhere, or housing, because outside of renting, I would like to eventually purchase and be a homeowner up here. But for the foreseeable future, I plan on being up here.
Max, help is on the way on that front. Stand by.
Elizabeth? Thanks, Max.
You're welcome.
I also have total dedication, availability, and commitment to serve for multiple years. As a property owner, I recently gave up my short-term rental, or relinquished my short-term rental to be able to provide long-term rental at affordable rate to community members, because I'm deeply committed to giving younger families an opportunity to eventually own homes in Ned. And so having this base to be able to scout opportunities from within and to live and work here, I think also just reflect my commitment, not only to being here in the long term, but as I said, not just growth at any cost. I don't think just making the most amount of money that you're able to make is the end goal for any of us in this community. I think that's what I would say for sustainable growth. It's how to do that in a preserving the values way. So being able to support your income, supplement your income, grow and be part and invested in the community, but not at the expense of the values that we all share and hope to preserve.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I actually was a commissioner for 2 years before I became the mayor, and on the BZA for 4 years before I became the mayor. And I think about the makeup of the people, because I serve with them all except for Mike and Timmy. So I serve with most of them, and I think I know the rest. And I think, definitely, Max, you bring a lot of the engineering. The technical is something they struggle with sometimes, the technical engineering knowledge, technical way of looking at code. The BZA does as well, just to be clear. So I think in that way you will benefit either either board. I ultimately think Elizabeth fills a gap more. I mean, you've got lots of different types of personalities there, but you've got a couple really one person I can think of as a really more gentler, kind of thoughtful approach to things. And I think you being in there as another person who looks at things that way and really is interested in hearing from people and kind of taking in things would be something that rounds them out better. So I lean towards Elizabeth. And Max, I think, I would hope you'd go with the BZA, and if something opens up later, you might be perfect to have you come in then. More comments?
Yeah, like I said, I like both these candidates. I've spoken with Elizabeth as well, and I appreciate her values and her way of thinking about things and approaching things. And really psyched to hear that you're open to doing the BZA, Max. I really feel that your engineering skill set will be a great benefit to the citizen advisors that make up all of our advisory boards and our BOT, and that's an area where we could stand to benefit by having your engineering brain involved in some of our decision making. So yeah, both great candidates, and
It
think
is not
we're
just
good
the
to go.
engineering part. I think it's going to be, it's his process part. I know, I watched how Max reasons through problems. And I think, Max, something on planning commission, BZA is hard to fill. But something on planning commission will come up, and I just found that I would have felt like I was just swimming in mud if I hadn't done something on BZA and had to interpret code and make some hard calls, and take the heat sometimes. But I think it's a really good way in. You'll know chapter 16 of our code really well before too long.
We have a motion on the table. So
And a second.
Oh, we
a
do. I
second.
guess we do still, yes. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? And the motion, and would you repeat the motion?
sure, I moved to appoint Elizabeth Pesner. Is that how you, Pesner, to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, Macy, go ahead and take the roll call.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
Yes.
and trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And then Miranda, can you give us a little guidance on, can we just say we move to, just move straight forward with a logical statement, or is there something specific you think we need to do? Since this wasn't.
I might need to turn that over to Attorney Madsen because it's technically not
Yeah.
in the agenda. Attorney Madsen, could they do it under other business? Or now?
I guess I don't see any problems with doing it now. Yeah, I don't see any issues with it.
Then
So it would be a motion.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to appoint Max Ovett to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion about Max on the BZA? Okay, Macy, tell us when you're ready. Go for it.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Mayor Billy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
That
you,
makes
Elizabeth. Thank you, Max.
Quick comment.
Yes, of course.
Max, if you're able to hang out on the meeting, we do have a variance coming up before us that is pertinent to civil engineering, and it'd be great to hear your public comment on that, and might be something that could have also been considered by the BZA anyway, so we could maybe start making immediate benefit of your participation in our government if you're able to.
Yeah, that'd be great. The BZA actually did have to work through a variance with them. That was one specific variance, and then this other variance falls on the BOT, so.
I'll send you the agenda right now so you can catch up.
I
while
have
we're
it already,
deliberating.
and I read through it. I just gotta look at it again. I can stay on the board. Or I can stay on
Thank
the meeting.
you.
You're
Thank you. With that, we'll move to our second action item of the evening, the 71 Pine Cliff driveway grade variance. Britt?
Hello. This is consideration for a driveway grade variance for 71 Pine Cliff Trail to allow maximum of 6% grade for 25 feet instead of 6% for 50, which is the minimum. The way it states in code, because I had this question earlier, just to get everyone on the same page, is if the grade shall flatten to 6% or less 50 feet before and after the approaching intersections, entries, and switchbacks. So they're looking to make 25 feet instead of the 50 feet at the intersection. Sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and move on from that. But just wanted to clarify that code language. This project was originally brought to us when Cody Newman and his team came to the design review committee meetings. The team at the time consisted of our utilities manager, Andrew Bliss, myself, Miranda, our previous supervisor, Mark Hall, our JVA engineer, Nathan Scalick, and Dan Wester, the Safe Built building official. The applicant's team was having a hard time designing a home that could meet all of Netherlands code requirements due to the size of the lot combined with the existing topography. I always mess up that word, so I'm sorry. There we go.
Topography.
Thank you. And just the general location of this property. It was determined in the meeting, the applicants would need to seek a front yard setback variance. On Wednesday, January 17th, the team came to the Boarding of Zoning Adjustment meeting and requested to reduce the front yard setback variance to 15 instead of 30. The board found the variance to be appropriate as it met all criteria, and they unanimously voted to approve it. This driveway variance, of course, falls under you guys according to section 11-70. The applicant will need to complete construction in the town's right of way, which is why it's coming before you guys. An important note to make is the property does not meet minimum lot size requirement under mountain residential zoning. The parcel is 0.39 acres. 1 acre is required for this zone. However, on June 6, 2022, the town issued a statement. The 71 Pinecliff is deemed a non-conforming lot, which means that principal and customary accessory buildings may be constructed on this. I believe this was before they purchased the property. Just to let you guys know, there are site maps on this if you haven't got a chance to look at them, so you know the area. So I will kind of move on to town staff. Town staff recommends approval. However, streets will continue to evaluate with JVA how the driveway with the variance, if approved, will ensure that the roadway, structural integrity is still maintained. It's important to also note, until we have like a complete application for the building permit process, we can't technically evaluate that. However, I will let Cody and team address that. I've shared some comments with you guys from his engineering team. There was no concerns from Boulder County Sheriff's Police Department. The fire department also had no concerns with this. The only thing they brought up is the fire hydrant would need to be added due to the closest fire hydrant being 390 feet away. You will see a memo from JVA that is in support of this variance as well. And then related to the requirement to maintain adequate provision for off-street parking, this driveway variance request does not impact the off-street parking requirements. So Paul's wanted to hear your thoughts. I'll let Cody come up and kind of go further into it. But if you guys have any questions after that, feel free to ask town staff or Cody and team.
One more time, the grade variant, or what's the grade on it?
6% for 25 feet instead of 50.
Got it.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone, and thanks for having us tonight. Cody Newman, me and my partner Dusty are actually residents of Nederland, 1634 Caribou Road. I've been a longtime Nederland resident, used to own 918 Ridge Road at the corner of Hurricane Hill and Ridge Road, where the old tennis court is there. You can't miss it. Sold that in 2018. Went through the Cold Springs fire as well. So yeah, been in Ned for a long time here. I want to start off just by stating, let me pull it up here, that the requested variance design perimeters are in alignment with the county requirements. So just want to throw that out there. Typically Boulder County is a little bit more strict, and what we're requesting, the 6% grade within the 25-foot area, is actually within county guidelines. So just want to throw that out to begin with. We have our architect Maya on with us as well, and our civil engineer Curtis Stevens may be joining us too. Before I kind of dive into what I have here, I guess I will just kind of open it up to see what kind of questions we have, concerns, and go from there.
quick question. Is this initially just for the board or is it for the audience as well?
There will be time for public comment. After, what we'll do is we heard from Brett. We hear from Cody. We'll ask clarifying questions of them both, and then we'll go to public comment. Probably start in the room.
So we're on clarifying questions.
We are on clarifying questions to Cody and Brett.
So help me understand from the engineering standpoint, the request to go to the 25 feet versus the 50 feet.
Yes, absolutely, Jesse. So as you may know, based off the documents that we actually have in the packet, the lot it's quite small, right? It's 0.39 acres. And the way it's shaped, it's more narrow toward Pine Cliff. And if you look at where we want to insert the driveway, which would be at that southern tip of the property on Pine Cliff, we don't have the full 50 feet. So going into this, we were evaluating because let me actually bring up the point that what we attempted to design here and hope to build is an environmentally friendly, green, net zero home overall. So one of our main objectives was to decrease substantially as much as we could any disruption to the earth and the surrounding environment, being trees as well. And we could have attempted to create some sort of a switchback, which to us would have been tearing up the land more and wasn't as sustainable. So doing the 25 feet allows us to be closer to the road, which is why we first requested that variance of 15 feet rather than 25 feet. And it allows less digging, less uprooting of the earth, less tree removal, all of that. And since it was also within the guidelines of, Boulder County, we were hoping that we could start there and make that work rather than doing more destruction to the earth that is there.
Cody, do you mind if I jump in for a moment here too?
Yes, please, Maya.
Hi, my name's Maya Ward-Carrot. I'm the architect on this project with Earthbound Architecture. And I just want to clarify that from a technical standpoint, a switchback is physically impossible to build on this and still meet any of the rest of your code because of how steep the property is. And that is one of the reasons we went to the BZA hearing first, is that we requested a setback variance so that we could push the building up the hill so that we could make this lot buildable. What we're requesting today, which is to decrease the 6% grade requirement from 50 feet to 25 feet where it joins the road, works in conjunction with that setback variance to make this lot buildable. It really is not buildable without that. And in our discussion with the design review team, we demonstrated to them how the building height requirements and the existing grade and the access requirements are all just a little bit too tight for this size of lot. Ideally, the lot would be larger, but as was explained, this lot was legally created, and so it should be allowed to be built on. It just has a lot more constraints than some of the larger lots that were created later on.
Out of curiosity, how did we end up with a 0.3 whatever acre lot, knowing that the rest of Big Springs is at 0.7 and above?
I will take that to Miranda to see if she knows. I don't have that.
I just
report.
So I can kind of answer that.
Okay.
So when we were looking at multiple properties to purchase, and I love Big Springs. I mean, I almost watched my home on Ridge Road burn down during the Cold Springs fire, sitting on my friend's porch on Big Springs. And so I was really looking for a property in Big Springs. Also because we want to be in town for many reasons. One is hopefully one day we can actually contribute, as you all are here too. That is truly a genuine goal. So we wanted to be within town. We wanted to be in Big Springs, and we looked at other properties, such as, there's one on Lakeview. There's one on was it Wildwood. There were multiple different properties, but we loved this property because we could potentially walk into town, and also because of, well, the view is amazing. So long story short here, I'm sorry. Prior to 1981, if the properties were subdivided prior to 1981, and they weren't owned by the same owner, to the adjacent property, they were legally conforming at that point in time. So if you look at the letter from the town attorney, which was written, I believe, in 2022, she did research and confirmed that this is indeed buildable. So I guess you could say, in a way, it was just what code was prior to 1981.
And maybe, thanks, Cody, Ms. Miranda. Maybe I can just add that, yeah, we did determine this is considered a non-conforming lot. And Trustee Sterling, there are a few of these where just the way in which they were subdivided prior to 1981, and then the adoption of zoning code just created them as non-conforming lots, which is why we do a review under 16184 to establish whether or not they meet the criteria for non-conforming. And some lots we do and some lots we don't, but this is a lot that, to Cody's point, was determined as just being undersized to meet current zoning, but it was done so prior to that 1981.
Yeah, and if you look at the adjacent properties directly to the south and directly to the north, both of those are well, pretty much everything along Pine Cliff, they're all about the same size. So they were back then full lots that were then divided in half prior to 1981. So the adjacent properties, size-wise, are identical in acreage, close to, of course.
And it just looks like, from looking at the Google map, that at least the ones to the south have similar setback variances in being closer to the road.
That one is near on the road, quite honestly. Yeah. So if you were to look at his property line, which I believe is 59 Pine Cliff you're looking at, he is right on the line because the right of way it encroaches pretty far to the west into our properties, those of us that are, of course, west on the Pine Cliff slope there.
Yeah, and it looks like most of the people along there have solved this problem in a similar way that you're proposing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Most of them are not even close to within what we're attempting to do here. So our driveway would not be nearly as sloped. We're more or less more centered than all of these properties. So I guess you could say that we're within guidelines more so than any of the other adjacent properties.
I would also add that fire safety was a huge concern in how we looked at this property. And so one of the purposes of both the setback variance and the variance we're requesting today is to allow the building to be close enough to the road that a fire truck would not have to come down the driveway. It would be serviceable from the main road. And we have diagrammed that out on the drawings on the site plan, so you can see how you could access with a 150-foot hose all the way around the building. And as Cody said, we did look at the surrounding properties. We really are trying to make this structure as in keeping with the neighborhood as possible, while also meeting all of the requirements that weren't necessarily in place when some of those structures were built. And finally, I'll add, we did include the architectural drawings in our submittal so that you can see that we're doing our best to make this a minimal impact while working with the site. We've got a multi-level design trying to cut into the hillside, trying to get a car down to the house while still working with this very, very steep slope.
Our entire design was based on the land as well. And I think that's something that should be taken into consideration. We didn't, we're not wealthy individuals from Boulder who came from money or anything like that. We both worked very hard to get where we are. And when we came to this point in our life where we said, this is what we want to do, and we love this lot, we're very fortunate enough to find Maya, who's amazing, as well as Curtis Stevens with the CDS Group Civil Engineering, as well as Jonathan Wallace with onsite structural engineering. We built this amazing team, but we didn't go into it with, yes, we want, which, let's be honest, a lot of people do, a 4,000 square foot home. No, we went into this and said we want a very small home, minimal impact, and what can we do to build it on this lot. So we think we took the right approach doing this, build the right team, the best, quite honestly, arguably in my opinion, and with minimal impact to the land. And looking at the designs, you can see finished square footage of the home is under 1,900 square feet. We're not looking to build anything huge here. It's going to be solar PV, passive solar design with thermal solar as well. So we're hoping to use pretty much, very minimal energy, no gas to it as well. all of that. And I hope you take that into consideration as you review this too.
More clarifying questions for Cody or Britt? Tanya? Tanya, you have any clarifying questions?
Me? No, I feel like I've asked a lot of questions in advance to the meeting. I don't really have any clarifying questions. I had asked Miranda that if during construction of the driveway, there is damage done to the road because the Pine Cliff road is very small, barely 2 lanes when there's snow on the road. And in that particular area before the culvert got put in, it was a pond there. It was pretty bad. So I know they're gonna have to move the culvert, but I wanted to be clear that if any damage occurs because of the construction of the driveway to the road, that causes town staff and supplies, that it would be on the home builder to repair the road. And I believe she told me that that was the case because they're using right of way for.
Right, so a right-of-way permit would have to be applied for, and in that case, there's a deposit and then liability of damages on the applicant.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern, and also if that was gonna, because I looked at it, I walked over there today, and it looks like it's coming down, you know, like at a 45-degree angle from the neighbor's driveway. I don't know if that's where it's gonna be, but that's where it looked like some tire tracks, and it looked like that was the access. So, you know, if it ended up causing, you know, damage to their driveway, which I'm sure they've spent a lot of time and money to maintain in this difficult hill, that they would also be responsible for that. I don't know if that's the same as a right of way, and that it's really not my problem. But if it were my driveway, I would be concerned. But that's it. I saw that it's actually, at first I thought it was just a 25-foot driveway, and then I looked and I read it again, and I see that it's 90 feet. So it's a perfectly adequate driveway. And the house is beautiful, and you know, so I don't really have any real objections other than what I mentioned.
And I'll just say thank you for that, Tanya. And what you're speaking to, where the neighbor's driveway that would be to the east comes down, we're actually looking to put ours on the opposite side there to the south, where the other gentleman's driveway, the gentleman with the A-frame, where his driveway comes up is where we'd be entering there.
You're going in there. Okay.
So there would be less impact as well. We were attempting to utilize what was already there while also working just with kind of the topography of the land there. And then also accessing in and out of the driveway, we would be facing toward the south of Pine Cliff. So, you know, that's 99.9% of the time we're going to be heading in and out of town rather than.
I see. Yeah, versus you have to go all the way around. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I'll also
it
add,
sounds
we're
good.
working around a electric pole at that location, so.
No, I know that's I mean, sorry. I think it's a difficult lot. And I'm surprised it's sold 2 or 3 times since I've been living here. But it does have great views, and I understand that you'll end up probably spending a bunch of engineering, but it'll be worth it once it's done. So, you know, good luck.
Well, thank you so much, Tanya. Yes, it's definitely a challenging lot, and there's a reason why it's sold multiple times. And you know, if we don't build on it, I'm sure it'll be one of those Ned lots that just goes through, you know, multiple hands over the years, unfortunately, because people move up here, or sorry, if they come here and visit and they have a dream, and then reality kind of sets in, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Any more clarifying questions for Cody or Britt? If not, we'll go ahead and move to public comment. You go ahead and sit down, Cody.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we may call you back up later. We'll see.
Perfect.
Thanks. So we'll go in the room first. Anyone with public comments, just go ahead and stand at the podium and identify yourself and your relationship to Netherlands. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is David Kane. I'm the owner of 59 Pine Cliff, so I'm just to the south of this proposal. I'm curious, is there a visual for a before and after of the variance? Because just reading text doesn't really give me a picture of what would happen if the variance was approved. So a comparison would be helpful for me to see before and after what the difference would be. Is that possible?
That makes sense. Well, I don't know. I mean, we have plan views, we have elevation views. I don't know, Maya, is there any kind of, you know, computer generated
I think.
I
Visuals?
know that Curtis looked at various 3D views of this while he was putting it together. I'm not sure if that would really provide you with what you're looking for. I think at this point, the site plan, which is included on page 37 of the Board of Trustees packet that was put out for this hearing, gives you the best idea of what's going on. And as I understand it, your lot would be directly to the south. So this driveway would be put in just north of the electric pole that's at the north edge of the pole out next to your driveway.
Okay, so will the driveway go then parallel to Pine Cliff, or is it going to go in a different direction?
It will continue
Parallel.
north and slightly west, creating a very shallow Y away from Pine Cliff. So it would be roughly parallel to Pine Cliff, but with a slight western leaning so that it can get down into the lot to be able to be built on.
Okay, because one initial concern I have is, especially during the winter, the plows come in from north on Alpine to push the snow down the hill. And as the plows come by, they're going to be burying my driveway, which they always do just because of the nature of it. But then in addition, now we have another driveway right at the same entrance, kind of creating like a log jam.
I don't think the addition of this driveway would affect the snow plowing on the road in any way, because Cody would be responsible for plowing on his own driveway or for clearing the snow there. And the logical way to do that for him would be to start at the top and push down, just like you're describing for the road, and that would push onto his lot. It shouldn't affect any of the snow removal on the road in any way.
Because from what you're describing, I really don't see a gap between the two driveways. I see them meeting like a Y, if that's an appropriate comparison. So there really isn't an area like if the one driveway's here, the other one's here, that there's a space to put the snow that the plows come by.
I mean, maybe somebody from the town can speak more to the snow plowing on this particular road, but generally the plows plow in the right of way and on the road surface. And so the addition of a driveway here would not necessarily affect how that's done. There would still be space between the driveways for snow to be pushed down the hill if it needs to be, and that would still be within the town's right of way.
So you're saying that for the electrical pole now that's there, the proposed driveway is going to go a little farther to the north before it meets Pine Cliff Trail?
Correct. It's just north of the existing electric pole is where it would start.
Any idea what the distance is?
Give me a moment.
And everyone, Maya, this is Curtis Stevens, the engineer. I jumped
You
on.
probably have that answer.
I
Go
do.
for it, Curtis.
All right, I'll hand it over to Curtis because he knows this way better.
Thanks. I'm Curtis Stevens with Sanitas Group. I'm the civil engineer as we're working on this. I apologize. I got double booked tonight, and
No problem. Go ahead with your answer.
yeah. And if need be, I can share a screen of the map too. I don't know if sorry, I forget the neighbor's name. If you can see the screen or not, but essentially, you know how your driveway comes up to the pole, and then there's a little shoulder north of the pole. Kind of in front of our client's property or my client's property there. We're basically utilizing that same zone. And I'm just doing the math here in my head real quick. It's about 15 feet north from the pole north is where our driveway intercepts. And then you're spot on. It's a Y. And what we've done is, to be honest, we're kind of sharing the top where the top of your driveway is kind of in front of our client's lot, and we're trying to share it. So we would do exactly as what you're asking about. Is we're not trying to widen the area of interface with Pine Cliff from what's there more than a few feet, which should make the snow management very reasonable. Effectively, I think what you're saying, we're not going to have a much larger area right at the top of the driveways that has to be, removed from snow. And as you're probably thinking, where do you put all this snow? the other thing we've done is we have put between my client's driveway on 71 and Pine Cliff, a space with a swale. So as the plow comes down Pine Cliff and sweeps snow over the bank, it'll land in this swale and manage, the water without, causing icing on our client's driveway.
It was mentioned earlier that the culvert is going to move as far as for drainage. How far to the north do you expect that to go?
It actually will swing south. So normally what you might see is, and I'd probably say if you're at your computer screen or not.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
He can see it. Thanks.
That's what we've been needing.
So right, if you could, can you see my screen, sir?
Yeah, but can you zoom in closer? I can't quite identify what we're looking at.
Well, this red line that I just, whoops, real fast for you. This big red line is the existing edge of I believe your driveway from our survey. The utility pole is right here where my cursor is. Sometimes there's a little lag, so let me put a circle here. Whoops. I think I'd be better at this after all these years, and apparently not. And then that circle is the utility pole. So the new driveway basically merges and shares the top of your driveway north of the utility pole. And then the existing culvert is this 12-inch RCP, which is reinforced concrete pipe, per the survey, and it discharges right on the bank, right below the slope of the roadway. And I think what is normal practice, standard engineering practice, would be you line culverts up with lot lines because you don't want to transfer street drainage, through the middle of people's properties. You want to run it down lot lines. I think based on just, kind of driveway layouts and, nothing was built here. Logic, the culvert was stuck right here. It is kind of pointing out in the middle of 71 Pine Cliff right now. Our plan is this dashed black and white line, fat line, is the new culvert alignment. The upstream end on the east side would stay in exactly the same place. We wouldn't change the drainage on the uphill side of Pine Cliff at all. And then we'd swing it and point it down the side of our client's property, move the outfall downhill of the driveway, and place proper riprap, which should help really stabilize the area and make sure there isn't erosion from that culvert outfall.
So it's just south of the electric pole from when I'm looking at the diagram? Is that correct?
Just the culvert will be north of the electric pole. It is.
Okay, so where again, I'm just having difficulty looking at all the lines, but where my driveway enters Pine Cliff, there's the electrical pole. You're saying the culvert was going to be on the north side of the electrical pole. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're keeping, because it's not going on your property now, the drainage, we made sure to keep it on our side of the line because, you didn't want to obviously impact your property. That purple line I just added is the new culvert.
Thank you for that visual, Curtis.
Yeah.
And just to throw a layman's perspective, how practical would it be to have a driveway that's parallel to Pine Cliff? The side of the hill that is at the same level or just below, but it's parallel to it versus having to go down into an incline. Is that practical?
Unfortunately, we looked at a lot of options, including exactly what you're talking about. We looked at, could we just do a pullout with a garage up at the street? And I know exactly, like Maya and I spent lots of time trying to solve this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because just as an example, when they go on Broadway near the university, they just have a pullout for RTD. So that way the road for Broadway continues, but there's a nice pull off for the bus.
Yep, and the problem we had is the slope is steep enough. And I brought this is a cross section of the site. And I apologize, it's really down and dirty because so here's Pine Cliff Road is this red line up on top. And if you imagine, this is the proposed grade and house setting is this red box. And this is what I was talking about. We have a swale between the road existing embankment and our driveway to capture snow from plowing. If we were to have the house all the way up at Pine Cliff, by the time we move that all the way out of the right of way into the setback, our building is so high out of the ground, even a garage, like a usable garage is up here, that we could never make it work and meet the height rules. We are exceeding the building height allowances. And Maya, please, smack me when I'm misrepresenting something.
You're absolutely correct. We also would have difficulty providing appropriate pullout from a garage outside of the right of way. So what we've done is kind of kept the driveway and the back out space for coming out of the garage on the lot. And you can see in this diagram, sort of the back of the car as you come out of the garage basically hits the edge of the right of way. And we wanted to ensure that there would be safe ingress and egress to this structure. And having just to pull out on the side of the road didn't really allow for that. Would also require many more variances than the 2 variances we're currently requesting, and would make any expansion of Pine Cliff Road in the future incredibly difficult with a house right up against it.
And whoops, I go on, sir.
Go ahead, Curtis.
I was just going to add that because this kind of thing came up with the BOZA. The hatched area is this existing road, and one of the problems Maya and I were really having is, as you can see, it's not centered in the right of way, it's shifted east. And if we were to do a pullout, we have to put our actual garage and turnaround outside the right of way, like we've shown it right here. And the lot drops so much from the edge of road inside the right of way that we just couldn't meet the height rules. And honestly, no one was going to want to look at that.
I believe we ended up with almost double the amount of fill that we're currently showing. So we're trying to balance all of these different factors, and we feel that the proposal you see today requires the least number of variances, provides the most flexibility in the future for any changes to Pine Cliff Road, and is the lowest impact to the surrounding neighborhood and the safest to be able to get to.
I would just agree with that statement very much. So I'll be honest, if we built the garage like we were thinking up here high at the same elevation of the road and got a variance for the building height, everyone was going to hate it because it was going to be, let's just say, very obvious, to be blunt.
Yeah, and it would not be in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. It would be kind of an eyesore on that road compared to everything else you see in the neighborhood.
Thanks for the visuals. Is it Danny? Dave, sorry. So usually we go with 3-minute comments. We've had a lot of back and forth, so we obviously would let that go. Are you feeling like these visuals helped?
They did.
Obviously, you guys will be able to talk. I hope you guys can talk a lot as this goes on. But
I thank you for your time.
We thank you for your time. Thanks for being here. And thanks, Curtis and Maya. Are there other public comments in the room about this variance? Online, are there any public comments from the folks online? Okay, well, hearing none, we'll bring it back for discussion and the motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-15, approving a variance for the construction of private driveway at 71 Pine Cliff Trail.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anyone have anything? Tanya?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Macy?
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
trustee Corvallon,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Mahold.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The motion passes. Thank you everyone for your time. Thanks for being here. Dave, Cody, thank you. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
thanks Maya. Thanks Curtis. Thanks for the work everyone's put into this. Bye, Elizabeth.
Many thanks.
We appreciate it. So with that, we're going to go to our third action item of the evening, which is the logo. Peter.
All right. Okay. All right. Had the wrong microphone on. All right. So I'm going to go over where we are with the Netherland brand and creative identity process, show you the results of our last survey, and then present a difficult decision for everyone, I think. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Grab a moment. Yeah. All right. There we go. All right. So to just get everyone up to speed, we have been working with Godot Creative since October on this new Netherland brand and creative identity, which has been funded through the Colorado Tourism Office Tourism Management Grant. And there's been a lot of back and forth. They presented their first logo. It was requested that we go back to the community with extra choices to get some more feedback. That we presented to the board in February. And then we were directed to go with one final survey to take the top designs from that community session, add in an updated version of our current logo, and a few community submissions that came in during that time as well. So we will show you the results of those 8 logos and the 5 taglines. And after which we are looking for a final vote on 1 logo and 1 tagline that can be plugged into the final brand book that Godot will deliver to us, and we can wrap up this grant. So just went over all this, but this is the quick background of what we were looking at. So we have 4 logos that were from Godot's design session. They also did that updated version of our logo. And we had 1 logo that was submitted by Roxana Astembrowski. Sorry, I'm terrible with names. And 2 that came from Will Wire, both of which are locals. We ran the survey for 2 weeks and got almost 500 responses, which is that's awesome. Kind of unprecedented for one of our surveys. If we hit 100, that's a solid day. So to see
Put it on the ballot.
So to see so much turnout on this was great. Afterwards, I went through, because I had just all the raw data, didn't see any kind of interference, no bot voting. We required names and emails. Nothing came out as obviously computer generated. I did see 13 responses that were duplicates, either because someone hit submit too quickly and hit it twice, or we got a few requests from people that wanted to actually just change their votes. So yeah, here are the final results. So I took the logos and just list them out A through H in the new survey, so there was hopefully less confusion. If you've looked through the packet, you can see the raw final results, and that has each of the logos attached to it. But from this data, you can see that while logo G, which I'll show the top 4 after this, but logo G had the most votes. The overall split between the top 4, A, B, E, and G, isn't that large. Logo G really just hits right over 25% of the votes, and the other 3 hit slightly under 20% for each. And these are the top 4. So logo A and B were both part of Godot's design session. They were options A1 and A2 that came out of that. Logo E was their rebuild of our current logo. So they basically cleaned it up, made it a circle again instead of an oblong shape, and replaced the blob with actual trees, which was nice. And G was one of Will Wire's submissions. We did ensure that he had, or that we had express permission for Godot to use it in the final deliverables. I will mention that there's multiple options for each of these, which can be found on Godot's website under the, which is also in the AIM that I included. So the Will Wire logo isn't just Ned, there is also Nederland variations of that. For the tagline, we saw a little bit more of a leaning in one direction. So the 5 taglines that were on the survey were unique by nature, close to the mountains, far from ordinary, it's all true, just outside the ordinary, and keep it wild, make it home. We saw almost, no, I think that's over a third of the votes were for unique by nature. So a little bit more in one direction for those. So I will bring it back to you to consider which of these logos and taglines you like. A couple of things to consider when going over it. First of all, usability. Can this be used in multiple applications? Will it work on the side of one of our public work trucks? Will it work as well as it will on, say, a report or a sign? Second, portrayal. Does this represent our town? Will it continue to represent our town for the next 7 to 10 years, hopefully? Identifiability. Is this a visually striking and recognizable logo? Mutability. Basically, can it be modified to adapt multiple uses? And if in doing so, does that change the overall design? And how well does it work alongside any other assets we might put in there? And popularity. I included how many each one was voted for, so you can see just how many votes each one got, because I think that's also important.
Thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. Are there any clarifying questions for Peter?
I have a question. So right now we, as a board, are voting on a logo and a tagline, and then this will be incorporated into the overall package that Godot is delivering.
Correct.
And then will we then vote on that to adopt, like formally accept that whole package and adopt it?
Hey, Miranda?
Yep, so the whole workup's in the AIM. So there's links in the AIM that take you to the full creative identity campaign. And so our hope is that you're adopting the full campaign.
Okay, right now we're adopting the full
Correct, tonight.
including color schemes, the font, the boops.
Right. So
Better.
so in the AIM, if you click on the links on the first page of the AIM, it'll take you to kind of the full campaign that does include kind of how you would see it in its different formats with the boops and the colors. And the color palettes are in those links as well. But But I just want to note that, you know, those things didn't seem to be a concern back when we brought this before you. And so the color palette stays the same throughout all of them. It's really just the applying of the logo and the tagline could then be added in where appropriate.
Right.
So clarifying question for logo G, if you click on it, there's a couple of adaptations of that logo. However, it looks like that has not been built out into a more comprehensive brand by Godot as yet. Would that be, should we pick that one?
No, that will be what is plugged in from what is supplied by Will Wire, as he is an outside entity.
Yeah, and Trustee Severs, I guess I think I hear what you're saying. They did plug it into the different creative kind of campaigns in that link. You'll see, I think you just have to kind of decide, is there one of those three that you like the best? Do you like all three? In which case Peter would then apply it where appropriate, because I think Godot has given you a sense of how you could use the three different, I don't want to say different because they all have the same thematic undertone, but you could use each one in a different application.
Got it. I see it here on Nicole's computer.
More clarifying questions?
I know this is too late for the fact, but there was not an option for none of these in any of the surveys for tagline or logo.
No, because due to the timeline of the grant, this is like the last day we can actually like approve anything to have it go finish everything up and then send it to the Colorado Tourism Office for final review before the end of April deadline. There is always an option to just not use something.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just jump in. At our last meeting, I brought that up, that was always an option for you. And I think the feeling of the Board of Trustees at that time was you didn't want to have to pay back the grant. If you go with nothing, we are responsible for reimbursing the CTO. And I think the feeling was we're going to keep going. And even if that meant you landed on our original design, our original logo, the intention was to still keep going. And so yes, we had to make a strategic decision not to have none of the above, because that's really not an option at this point. Based on the feedback we got last time, is that we're really picking tonight one of these options before you.
I think Luke just revealed he voted uncommitted today.
Maybe.
I did vote for both.
I saw the raw data. I
and
saw
the
what you voted
tagline.
for.
That's your numbers. I stayed off that.
I would just make a small note that had a brief conversation with Nikki about parks being one of the entities in town that has a lot of physical material with the existing logo on it, and rebranding, everything from sweatshirts to, machinery is, signs, trail signage, all that stuff is, I don't know if that is factored into our cost of doing this or not, but.
So maybe I can just speak to that. Like, yes, of course, over time, we're going to want it. Say you choose something different than our current logo. Over time, we of course are going to want to phase to that new brand, but I don't want that to be maybe a decision factor here. That's going to happen like something else. You like logo B. When we order new swag and new stuff and new equipment, we'll make sure that those things have the new logo, and we'll phase it out over time. The town was never going to be able to do just like kind of a complete overhaul of all of our stuff, but we would want to make sure anything new we do begins to phase. And it will take a long time to phase out some of that older stuff, but it would happen in time.
Right, so we're not going to start repainting all the trucks tomorrow.
Correct. But this is a big part of kind of as we move forward, again, just a reminder of why we're doing this, is as we move forward and we start to really develop our educational materials that communicate to community members and visitors kind of who Nederland is, what our expectations are. We want to really utilize potentially a new or revitalized logo to help us with that communication. of what is Nederland, who is Nederland, how do we want you to interact with our community. A logo can help guide that conversation and help to really brand that kind of revisioning of Nederland and how we want to communicate our values to those who visit and to those who live here. And that's grounded in a branding and creative identity campaign. So again, whether you go with E or something new, it's still all going to work. And this isn't just about what's slapped on the side of an excavator. This is so much bigger than that.
Also want to just point out that not everything is going to be applied to every instance. So, not every document's going to have the logo and the tagline underneath it. Just as we identify where things appropriately are needed, that's where those will appear.
More clarifying questions? If not, we'll go ahead and go to public comment. Do you have any comment here in the room? Okay, so no one has a comment in the room. If anyone online has a comment, now is your time. You have 3 minutes.
This is Max Ovett.
Is it? Okay, go ahead. That's a good connection. That last, whoever said
Better now?
Yep.
Just a question on how the Will Wire logo was generated.
Oh, just
or
a
created.
Max, do you mind identifying yourself?
Yeah, Max Ovett, resident of Nederland, living in Old Town, and just curious to see how the Will Wire logo was generated.
So that was sent to us after the first survey, the community design session survey was finished up. We included it in our presentation along with other ones that were sent to us, just to kind of show, hey, here's things that have been coming from the community. And when the decision to do this final survey came around, it was suggested to us that we reach out to those individuals to include them in that survey to see what people thought of them.
Max, are you asking if whether or not it was AI generated?
That is the intention of the question.
Oh, okay.
Is it AI generated?
No, that was designed by a human being.
Okay.
As far as we know.
As far as I know.
Yeah. Also, just to clarify. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No,
go
you
ahead.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Max.
My vote is for, my opinion is for logo B over logo G. Just as a town constituent, I find it to be more aesthetically appealing than logo G. But there we go.
So your vote, so your preference is logo E, is that what you said?
Logo B, B as in boy.
B as in boy. Okay, thank you.
Boy.
Thank you.
So Melody, she's having bandwidth issues, so she just sent me a message. So if it's okay, I'd like to read her comment into the record.
Yes, please.
Melody Baumhover, Nederland resident, said, I would like to add my vote to logo E. I do not want to vote for a tagline.
I do not want to vote for a what?
A tagline.
Okay, thank you, Melody. Are there more public comments from the folks online? Great. If there are no more public comments, we're going to bring it back to the board for discussion and a motion.
So one of the other things too, I think to clarify is I believe, and maybe someone from Godot, Itty, I think I see you on there somewhere. Yes, Itty. I believe option B, as in boy, was also influenced by a local artist. Is that correct? By Laura Lynn?
I think the answer is yes.
Hey, all. Sorry, we were just scrambling to find the mute button. This is Beckett talking. Yeah, we went back and forth with Laura Lynn, I believe is her name. Laura Lay, maybe.
Right.
And she was quite wonderful. It kind of started with a sketch that she did, and we were able to turn it into something a little more geometric and usable.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so that was, I think something that also just kind of got missed in the narratives is that that one was also, it was influenced, it wasn't the ultimate, like what that artist had presented, but it was influenced by a local artist.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's right.
Logo B was influenced by a local artist. So I guess I'll kind of just throw down some thoughts that I'm thinking. Unique by nature is interesting. I think there's a lot that we can play with that in terms of we are in a natural setting. Parks and recreation has always been a big deal to us. We do consider ourselves in a unique place. We also oftentimes our people, the people that live here, consider themselves unique rule breakers. I heard at several of our logo meetings. Sometimes we're considered the black sheep of families, right? We embrace the unique. And so when I saw that come through as like one of the kind of the leading taglines, I thought, yes, I could see that we're being very representative of Nederland. And when I think about that tagline and I compare it with the logos that we have available, Logo B is really sticking out to me. It shows our reservoir. It is focused on the nature around us. Rather, you know, and so I think that and it's got a unique design. I do like that it's influenced by a local artist. And so that when combined with the tagline unique by nature, I think that that's sort of, it's all encompassing. And I think that logo also pairs the best with the boops. With some of those colorful, right, images that are a part of the creative brand. It doesn't detract. When you look at the other logos, you know, when it's got the moose in it, I feel like it detracts from those boops. The boops are meant to have an image. They're meant to have a kind of a colorful statement. And so, yeah, and so I'm thinking initially Logo B with unique by nature. When I look at the Will Wires option, when it's on the paper or like when it's, you know, in the creative brand, it looks very blobby. It's very, it's hard to kind of differentiate. And that's one of those things when it shrinks down. Now you could just do the Ned, right? And the moose on top and just be done with, and just have that. But there has been some feedback of like, we're not Ned, we're Nederland. And also there was an interesting perspective that came to me about having animals. I know from our folks that work at the visitor center, you guys get some pretty wild questions, such as at what elevation do elk turn into moose? And are you allowed to pet the moose? And so there's a little bit of a wary thing for me of having a moose as a mascot. After that, I had that conversation with that person of it's almost kind of like a Disneyfying of the animals. And in our situation where we want people to be safe and not necessarily, I mean, they're already trying to pet moose, but maybe not making that as a focus for our logo. I thought it was an interesting perspective and not something I personally had thought of. So just throwing that out there.
Well, I can tell you I'm staunchly anti-moose.
You're staunchly anti-moose.
Yeah.
Okay, we have an anti-mooser in the house.
Have been
Like
from
in logos or in general?
Yes.
The above.
No, in the logo. Again, it's because I find it to be mascotty, and that's just not something that I think we should be including in a government seal in this way. Yeah, I mean, I'm the tagline. Like I get it. I get unique by nature. Both the words unique and nature bother me for various reasons. But none of the other ones work better for me. I'd just as soon not have a tagline for the town, and I'd be happy if that's what we voted on, and we decided not to adopt a tagline and just went with one of these logos. And yeah, I'm leaning towards B and E. Mostly because I'm so anti-moose, but also I think that B looks really dynamic when it is used in its various forms. If you go look on the page where it's being applied in use cases, I think that it's quite a dramatic logo. It has like some movement to it that I appreciate. It doesn't feel so static and dense. It has a lightness, but also kind of drama to it that I like. And I think E is fine.
It's safe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
And
It's fine.
government, you don't take risks.
Unless you're Nederland.
Unless you're
Unless you're unique by nature.
Unless
Maybe forest freaks. Would that be better?
Okay.
I've got
the
a
same
proposed-
idea, right?
I've got a proposed tagline. This is from Josh Harrod, who's a longtime Nederland resident. And he proposed, "It will blow you away,"
That is awesome.
which I think sums up Nederland in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
What I-
That's pretty good.
What I think I like about how people voted for the tagline is we originally had the step back, look closer. And I think where people said, well, wait a second, that kind of sounds antagonistic, which, to look in the mirror, some of us are, we kind of create that dynamic for ourselves. And yet, whether you look at Unique by Nature or you look at any of the other taglines, I'm sorry, but there's a theme. I think there's a theme as to why those taglines surfaced is because Nederland would like the world to know we're a little quirky and that's okay. I think we're trying to make a statement there.
I mean, I also, on the moose thing, just to finish it off, like it's not native to Colorado. Moose may have moved through here prior to 1978, but they were introduced by Parks and Wildlife, mostly for hunting. Like I don't necessarily see it as a reasonable thing to put on our town logo.
I think that was something that got missed from our dialogue too previously, or maybe we didn't hit on it or say it enough that it is a non-native species. And I've been surprised a lot of people don't actually know that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So are you guys okay with the bird as a mascot then instead? Because the bird is in.
There's a bird
B.
in it, but it doesn't feel like it's about a bird, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like
It's not the
an
center
image of a bird. It's a bird in a landscape, which is a bit different.
And when you see those bald eagles flying over the reservoir, that's when you know, like,
You're a net.
that's a moment. Like, holy crap, this is where we live.
More comments? More thoughts?
Sitting from back here is a unique perspective. I mean, logo, the bottom right, the Ned jumps out. But you're right, it's not Nederland. I'm influenced by what you said and what you said about the drama of the suite. I don't like moose personally. That's why I had to put a big fence up. But I like the whimsical part, but I'll go with you on this has to stand the test of time. And I do like the tagline a lot. So I'm going to vote against what I sent you, Peter.
I would like to point out that just going through the logos, what people have said publicly turned out not to be what they voted for. Just in general, not just in this room, but like across the board.
This is true. We thought the hula hoop moose was going to reign, be the slam dunk. And ultimately, that's not what happened.
But this is also the problem with single click survey style, like polling of people in general, right? Like the idea that a survey is inherently democratic, I think is wrong. A survey, I think, often brings out not the best in folks because you can click easily and you can press submit and you can say something snarky and you consider that to be your opinion and all of a sudden people think your opinion is valuable. Well, it might not be, because it might not be genuine and authentic. And genuine and authentic opinions are expressed, I think, in different ways. And I think they're mostly expressed through action, not through little single click surveys.
Yeah, when a truck goes by, you go, holy shit, did I vote for that? I think is the kind of the acid test. This has been, we've had the privilege of having been through this many iterations at this point. So I think we've all evolved a little bit. I have just now.
It's gotten narrower, or, you know, had we stopped at the first survey, like where would we have been? And I think just doing another iteration, I think it has gotten us closer. I mean, not everyone is going to be happy. This is what happens.
I still like logo C the best.
I know, buddy. I know you were holding out for that.
You are.
I know you're holding out.
Denied.
And I believe, how many votes did that one got? It was one of Eric. If there's one, it was Eric.
No, I don't vote in these things, but.
Yeah, I think it's
see,
it's
logo
important that
require
if we're going to ask the public for their opinion,
Logo C got 22 votes.
It's pretty good.
I like
But-
it.
Quantum leap from the social media.
22 other lunatics out there.
I like it.
You're not running.
Go ahead, Luke.
I'm just saying, if we're going to ask the public for their opinion, we put up survey, not just one survey, but multiple surveys, and we've asked, we can't, ignore that, right? I mean, we don't have to do exactly what the public says, but I think it's important to, take that into consideration.
Is that a challenge, Luke?
Well,
Yeah, you're right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Newspaper online right now, because
Yeah.
this will run at midnight.
We expect nothing less.
You're right. And I think therefore four logos got significant. So all four of these that we're really kind of focused on kind of were somewhat, chosen by the public.
well, I'd like to throw in the, it'll blow you away as a tagline option. And I would be in favor of either logo B or logo E.
Mayor Billy can help you provide number six.
So
guy.
just curious with that, because you said that if we're going to ask the public for their opinion, but then
There was no none of the above or fill in your own for the taglines.
right, because we had that in a previous iteration. We had to fill in
We
your
had
own.
the whole 16. And,
Well, that's a good point. I think it came up on NetHeads and it got a fair amount of public support. But that's about as much as I've got.
Nicole, when did we have a choice to make our own tagline?
I believe in one of the earlier surveys, and especially in the in-person, people were writing in and into their survey, the various taglines.
I
Yeah.
don't remember it being in any of the Google surveys or whatever, but
what do you think, Tanya?
I guess I'm inclined to go with B for the reasons everyone said. And then no tagline is my preferred at the moment. I thought our whole mission on this was to create like something like, steamboats, where it's like kindness floats the boat, or we're trying to come up with ways to, make tourism more sustainable and all this. It doesn't sound like anything like that's going on with this. It's just a new logo. Which is fine. And so I don't like any of the taglines, and I think B looks probably the best when you click on the options. I'm still not that comfortable with the boops. I know they try to lighten them up a little, but they still look very Halloween-y to me. Like the cat. I don't know what the black cat's all about. I really don't. Why is there a black cat?
Our mayor, I'm assuming that's in reference
It's
to
supposed to be to Fred.
Fred. Yeah.
Well, to me, it's just a black cat. It just looks creepy. No offense. I like black cats, but the way it's just sitting there, it's a silhouette. I don't. Anyway, but that's fine. The boops are fine. I don't like them. And I like B fine. So I'd go with that. Even though G got the most votes, I do agree. It does look a little clunky. I'm also not a fan of Moose, and though Ned is just every time I wear my Ned hat, people are always like, "Who's Ned?" So
Yeah.
Are we gonna do two votes?
Yeah, I was thinking that we need to, because there's no reason, nothing has to be paired.
I mean, one of the things I think, one second, Miranda.
Holding.
Yeah, just one of the other things is in terms of like, I know this from the Colorado Office of Tourism Management or whatever, and like there's a whole tourism component to this, but I'm sort of ignoring that honestly, because there's gonna be like this Chamber of Commerce, there is the DDA, like the Steamboat campaign is through their chamber, not through their town. Right? Like there is a place for that kind of stuff. And I'm not sure that town government is the
Eric,
place.
this is how it was sold to us when we approved the grant.
I like I said, I understand that, but like I think that it needs to be a little bit more stately than that. Like I don't think it can be so flippant. I don't know. It's just my own kind of feelings towards government.
Like, if you would have said to us just last year, you want to spend 25,000 of grant money and partially town money on a new logo, we might have just been like, well, I don't know, what's wrong with our current logo? But it was brought to us like this big campaign of do Nederland right. And then we were like, oh, we don't want to do that. Come up with something different. Anyway, we're just at a new logo. That's all this is. And that's fine.
I guess I would like to go back and say that's not the case. Like you're clicking on creative identities and branding, and if you see there's a variety of different things, from flyering about events to one pagers to descriptions about what Nederland is, like hikes and shrooms to events. Like you see everything on these web pages that Godot designed for us, which is the full creative identity. You also have towards the bottom an Explore Nederland. So I think where we
the hikes and shrooms, that's a real document with links to trails and information about the area, like what mushrooms to eat and which ones you can't. And I mean, is it a real doc? To me, I just thought when I clicked on it that it was just like this, just to show the logo on something.
Right.
I didn't know that this is a real file with real information in it.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we're showing you mock-ups of what these types of things could look like, and that they're all thematically connected through a logo and a creative identity. So I want to respectfully disagree that this is not just about a logo. What happened is in this process, we ended up getting so fixated on a logo that it's really detracted from what the larger thing is, which is what we brought you, which is a full branding and creative identity. And I really appreciate that Godot prepared these web pages because it speaks to the complete brand, which is what we've always been striving for.
But these web pages that we see when we click to see more, what does that mean? Are these files that we're going to access to create our own for our new web page for Town of Ned web page that we're going to create? Like, what is it? Is it because
I think it's trying to show the logo, in application.
Well, yeah, obviously we're going to use it on all kinds of things.
Right. So Godot will basically prepare us, in essence, kind of a brand book, and Beckett, jump in if I miscommunicate all this, but a brand book that provides us templates and a lot of things that you see here in terms of uses of how we utilize these, and posters and social media and preparation documents and PowerPoints and aims, like how we'll really build our thematic identity through everything we do from here on out. And it's basically, I believe the term is a brand book that Peter can then pick and choose from as he starts to build some of this programming or these different things to promote our community and to communicate the values of Do Nederland Right. I mean, that's really the point, where we're going to use what is shown to you on these web pages as kind of as our color scheme, our font, our logo, our just like thematic approach to communication. So when you see things, you go, oh, that's Nederland.
Wait, well, what's up with the moose in the American flag? Are we approving that too then? When we approve this, we're approving that. So Eric, look up, that's part of the package.
What are you talking about?
I don't know what you're
Moose
talking
in the
about.
American flag you click see more, and then it's 2024 Nederland municipal election. Who is running? And it's got a moose and an American flag, and then it's got the mayor candidates, and well, it's what you were just talking about, Miranda.
No, so if you're talking about what's currently on our website, that's been happening before we ever adopted.
No, I'm talking about what's in the package. When you click on B and you scroll down, you look at all the different things that you're talking about, the whole package. One of them has a moose and American flag sort of like on the election page. So I mean, obviously we don't have to use that, but that's part of the package that we're buying right now, it looks like.
Right,
No, that's not part of, that is a mock-up of like things that we could use it for, you like as outside pieces. That's not part of the, not specifically part of the whole package.
Right, so I guess, again, I think maybe you're getting too stuck, though, Trustee Corville, on what's on this page. Like, this is meant to be, to give you a visual idea of how these documents could be created. It's not like we're buying what's on this page. It's in essence meant to be for illustrative purposes only. But we have an idea of like, what is our font structure? What is our logo? What's our coloring? You know, what's our formatting look like? And then we as staff utilize that in all of the messaging we do related to Do Nederland Right and those philosophies behind it. So I just think we can't get so stuck on like what's physically on this page and use it as a visual representation.
I mean, the way that I see this is that it's a tool set for town staff so that they don't sit around designing flyers all day, and they have a plug and play method of just throwing the information onto a page in a way that already looks good because we already have a branding and creative identity established. So there's nobody sitting there like trying to figure out which font to use for the next flyer, right? It's all kind of set in advance. We all know what the colors are. We all know that it works together in a particular way. Like that's what I see this as a like a time and cost saving measure for town staff to effectively communicate in official documents from the town. Consistently, yeah.
And it kind of creates the feeling of what we want to be known as. Like I look at this and it's like, okay, they've got some vibrancy. Okay, they've got some quirkiness to them, right? Which may be different from like a Superior, Colorado, which I think that's also what we're trying to do is maybe stand out a bit.
But even if we don't, I think that's okay.
So I, for one, like love moves, but I totally am convinced, I'm swayed by what you said about that mascot Disney kind of thing that ends up happening. Not as swayed by whether it's native or not, but so yeah. So for me, those two are no longer in the running. And I initially really was leaning towards the existing town logo. But I do, again, feel swayed. Kind of what I like about whatever, you know, the one with the eagle or the raptor is wow, at the moment whatever letter it is. Thank you, B. B is in boy. Okay. What I like about it is both the you know, the black inside the white and then the white, you know, alone. So I kind of like how it can be used very differently. And then that itself is a shape that's either birdie or dragony, you know, like that to me is really kind of just interesting. And I also like that we have a local artist who really helped influence that. And as it finished.
Right side.
Kangaroo.
It's
Yeah.
one of the ink blot tests. We'll see what you see.
So yeah, so I definitely I think that's my favorite now. And then I think I like Unique by Nature. You know, if we're gonna pick one. But I also like It'll Blow You Away. But I think Unique by Nature is also just kind of can be interpreted lots of ways.
I also like how short it is.
Yeah, I actually love how short it is. That's probably the best part. Yeah.
Get shortened to UBN.
Uban tie. So that's just what I'm thinking. More comments from the board? And then when we do make a motion, I'd like us to make a motion on the logo and then the tagline. I don't care in which order, but just separate.
My preference would be to go to the logo first because I think, I mean, anybody could jump in if you feel differently, but I'd like to do the visual first and then the tagline.
I like it.
Yeah, I'd throw out that you know, personally, I prefer the current town logo is my favorite. I definitely see there's you know, some momentum behind the B option. I'm inclined to vote for G because that seems to be what most of the people in town support. But
yeah, no, I
well,
like
most
that.
of the people who voted in this survey.
Most of, well, which, as Peter said, is the most turnout they've had in any survey so far. So people care about this.
Yeah,
And I think, it's important that we listen.
definitely. I mean, and then I think the number two that people voted for is B.
Yeah.
Oh, comment. I'd like to comment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm open for comments. I just,
Logo B is my vote, my preference. I like G as well. And, I appreciate what you say, Eric, that we should just decide if we want to do something rather than think that we have to do something, ignore the fact that we got this money. And I think we should consider, do we have an improvement on our existing logo here worthy of actually rebranding and getting all the new swag replaced and everything? And logo B, let me tell you all the reasons why that's a good one and it's a good vote. Luke, I hope you're listening. So logo B is most similar to our existing logo, for one. It's an improvement on our existing logo. It's more beautiful. And it evokes the reservoir more than our existing logo, which evokes more of a creek. And it looks really cool on the treatments that he provided, or that the creative team provided. And it also integrates really well with the broader boops and the various iterations on the brand. And I also really love that it evokes a certain sort of earth magic that is kind of something that I was asking for in our last go around on this, where it gives a certain sense of place with regard to the fact that it's the time it spans beyond the existence of our town, and that there's people and animals and nature lives here regardless of when the town was established. I would prefer to strike the established in 1874 personally, but I'm willing to live with it because I don't want to try to make more edits at this point. And it also, it really looks like Nederland looks when you're driving up the canyon and you come into town, and that's the first really breathtaking view that you see of the town and the reservoir, and especially at night. And so this is actually like a really great logo it could be on a sign that would be along Boulder Canyon Drive up near the top by the dam, or when you first capture that view or shortly thereafter. That really resembles the breathtaking view that you see of the town, and it's such a beautiful town from that vantage point. And then you get into town and you realize it's kind of junky, But from there, it's sort of
edgy.
Edgy. And so those are all the reasons why I like
edgy by nature.
Logo B.
Edgy by nature.
So that's logo B. And so regarding the taglines, unique by nature, I don't like that. I think that's really kind of unique is I really don't like that word. And also nature, it just feels like it's so overdone, and it just doesn't really say, like anybody could say that. And I voted for Close to the Mountains, Far from Ordinary, which was the second highest vote getter. And I would vote for that particular one. And that also says something like step back and look closer, because it has close and it also has far. And, that's really what we are. And it's not unwelcoming, and it's not welcoming either, per se. It just necessarily says what we are, and it's cool. And being close to the mountains is, in my opinion, our greatest strength. And we've already heard tonight, many people have moved here and live here because of that. And that's why I love it here. And the fact that it's far from ordinary is also really cool. And it says the same thing that unique by nature says, but in a much more articulate way. And it's still a tagline and catchy. I realize it's long, and you guys probably argue against it in that regard, but it's the second highest vote getter. And unique by nature is just, it's too simple and it's just, those are lame words for marketing and for a tagline, in my opinion. And I would vote for no tagline over unique by nature. And, but I would vote, if we were gonna go with any timeline, it'd be close to the mountains, far from ordinary.
Thank you. Any other comments from the trustees?
I'm just going to make my little pitch to Jesse for keeping the established in from what I consider to be a decolonial perspective. And that is that to call this place Nederland and act like it was always called Nederland, I think is part of the problem. Like by marking out that this is when we named it Nederland and it's called Nederland for now. I think it makes sense to have it that way from that angle.
Sure, I can live with that. I don't think we can ever do it exactly right. So let's just keep failing forward.
That was good. Any more comments? How about a motion on that logo?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt logo B for the town of Nederland.
I would like to make a friendly amendment. All the eyebrows go up. I would like to say that we adopt logo B, in this motion, logo B and the rest of the branding and creative strategy.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
Minus the logo. Sorry, minus the tagline. Sorry, my brain doesn't. I just want to.
Do we need to say all that, Miranda?
I want to get it all out of the way.
I think that's.
It would be nice to know that we officially have it on the record that you're adopting the full creative identity. So I support that.
So I'd like to make a motion to adopt logo B for the town of Nederland and including the entire creative identity and branding that's been laid out for the creative design.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion on the logo and the branding identity stuff? Macy?
Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon?
Yes.
Trustee Sterling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
No.
And Trustee Severs?
Yes.
All right.
Motion passes. Thanks, everybody.
Jake, or Luke, that's your first pain.
Not too painful.
Good job, Luke. Presenting.
There needs to be one.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt unique by nature as the town tagline.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the tagline?
I'd like to make a competing motion.
That's unfortunately not a thing.
Yeah. We appreciate your.
So you can continue to like to quietly to yourself. Macy?
Trustee Corvalon?
No.
Trustee Miller?
No.
Trustee Severs?
No.
Trustee Sterling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone?
Yes.
Mayor Billy?
Is not a vote.
Yes.
And Trustee Coombs Ismail?
No.
Okay, so the motion is not approved.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt "It Will Blow You Away" as our town tagline.
I'll make a second. Have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Macy?
I do have a discussion item. I mean, that feels weird to be able to have asked for our town to vote on it and then for it to not, that's just kind of the point.
Agreed. It feels weird.
This feels weird could be our tagline.
Can I remind you though, you don't, I mean, a tagline can
I
always
like that. It feels weird.
A tagline can always be decided on later. I did hear some comments of like, oh, I'm not so sure I'm ready. I think for us, it's really the creative identity. And CTO did talk a bit about like, don't get hung up on a tagline because that's not often incorporated into a lot of creative identities. And so I just want to put that out there that you could consider kind of tabling that. And we still have enough to keep moving forward and finalizing this grant.
Okay, I retract my motion. I make a motion to wait on the tagline.
I make a motion to rethink that. I mean, essentially, I'd love to have this done. I'd like to get stuff done. I don't want to drag stuff on.
But not everything has to be done.
Yeah, we don't.
If it's
have to
something
have it
that does
So
not need to
let's
be done.
carry through with the vote.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't make you, you can do what you want. You made a motion.
Well, and we already got a second, so.
Okay.
All right, Mayor Billy,
No.
Trustee Severs,
Sorry. This is probably the right thing to do.
No.
Trustee Sterling,
No.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallon,
Wait, what are we voting for right now?
It'll blow you
It
away.
will blow you away. Weird's next.
Oh, we're doing that? No.
That's what we're voting on.
Okay.
and
motion-
Trustee Miller.
Yes.
Okay. 5-2, the motion fails.
I would like to make a motion that this board commit
But I
to,
want to make a motion. I'm joking.
Damn it, we're all gonna make a
Raj,
motion.
why didn't you say this is a discussion?
well, okay, yeah, I was gonna say, can we just say that we're not gonna adopt a tagline?
Yeah.
Instead of saying we're gonna kick it down the road, can we
Right,
just
just
say
say
we're not going to do
we
it?
actively choose not to.
Yeah.
We actively choose not to.
How
go with the
about,
tagline right now.
I move to do the tagline that I liked.
You don't even remember what it is.
Close to the mountains, far from ordinary.
Okay, you did remember. Test passed.
The question on that one is, where did it fare in the rankings?
Second.
So it did fare second.
98 votes.
98 compared to 184. So Unique by Nature got 184, almost twice the amount
It
of
did.
votes
Yeah.
that
So
Far
the
from
question,
ordinary.
Peter, from a visual identity standpoint, that's a long one. How does it fit? Is it too complicated?
It does, it's not as mutable as some of the shorter ones. But
What's that mean? Mutable?
it doesn't, yeah, it's not as
Oh, mutatable,
easy
yeah.
to adapt
Yeah.
to different situations. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing. No.
You can drop it away quite commonly
Blown
throughout
away.
throughout the branding. Yeah, blown away is pretty good, but it's not always windy. And some of my favorite days here are when it's not windy. I think that's why I don't necessarily want to call the wind.
We have to leave that tagline for Eldora.
Yeah, or for a T-shirt.
Yeah. I do really like it. I just think it's too jokey to be our town's official tagline.
Yeah. We can definitely use it at the visitor center.
Yeah, and yeah, about the tagline. So the other option that Eric, you were going to propose, because nobody's seconded yet, correct?
I didn't actually make the motion yet.
You were considering a motion though, and I was anticipating your thoughts. So you were suggesting that we move to simply not adopt a tagline. And there's another consideration of kicking the can down the road, which Tom's not in favor of. You're probably not in favor of. And
I would like to put a bow
put
on
it to
this.
bed. Yeah.
So there is some similarity. So whether it's Unique by Nature, Close to the Mountains, Far from Ordinary, or what got third, which is just outside the ordinary. If it were kind of cut off and just said far from ordinary or outside the ordinary, is that resonating at all with anybody?
Yeah, I think.
I'm just asking.
I like shorter. Beyond ordinary would be even shorter.
Or how about outside the ordinary?
Yeah,
Drop just
yeah, exactly. So
outside the ordinary.
outside the ordinary,
Though I don't think our national forests are ordinary.
far from ordinary.
In Gilpin County might take issue.
It's got a weird, I think it has a strange, like that, what's adjacent to us is ordinary. It's kind of aggressive.
Well, yeah, it makes, it's like, is Boulder's ordinary?
Right.
or-
Very, yeah.
Okay.
If
I don't-
we say no tagline, could Peter and town staff
Use all these.
just play around, use them all, just kind of do whatever you want with regard to a tagline?
It's a creative identity. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
We're telling him to do what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, well, is it our job to say what our tagline is, I guess? I suppose it is, huh?
If
I think
if
that's
you want a tagline, if I would assume, and Miranda, and everyone correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you opt to not have a tagline, that just means we wouldn't have an official town tagline. We could still use various taglines for various things, like how we currently have "It's better up here" or "Life's better up here" currently on the website. That's not an official tagline. That's just.
But it's on the
things we
website,
use.
so. if
And
we-
it's on the sign.
If we do nothing, you guys can still just
Yeah,
use things that are unofficial.
we could definitely.
You're obviously already doing it.
Come back to this at a later point if town decides we need a tagline, right?
Well, I'd make a motion to have our tagline be "It's life's better up here," or "It's better up here." I don't know if anybody will support that. I kind of I want to get the job done. The job was to create an identity. I think a tagline is a part of identity.
I think we got 90% there, like, just with the logo
I
and
think we've done
whatnot.
that with the logo
I
and
think
the
the
branding.
visual is really,
I insist that municipal governments do not need a tagline, and that is not part of a municipal government's identity.
And that's actually a recommendation from CTO where they really felt like, don't get caught up in your tagline.
Okay.
That was one statement from Andrew Grossman, who is the director of the CTO. To them, it really, to Trustee Coombs' point, this is about the vision, and Mayor Billy, the visualization was key here. The tagline doesn't necessarily add to the visualization. The visualization creates that thematic creative identity. The tagline would just be supplemental.
are you okay with that, Tanya? You said you hate
Yeah,
taglines.
I'm fine with that.
How about don't get caught up in your tagline.
I make a motion that we say, "This feels weird."
Second.
But I would like to officially not adopt a tagline, if that's all right with you guys. So I move.
I mean, I don't know if we have to officially do that, Eric. What if the next board decides that
Well,
they
they
really
can.
want a
They
tagline?
can do
They
that.
can do a tagline if they want.
This is
Okay.
symbolic for me. I move that
This is
we
your-
do not adopt a tagline. for the
A
town of
second.
Second.
He needs this. He needs
Okay,
this.
I don't care. Sure.
I had made a motion and Tanya had seconded it. It was, I'm just gonna say.
No.
I'm gonna say for the record, it was a joke and I withdraw. my-
Okay.
It feels weird.
We just took it as such and
Feels
rolled right.
weird.
So,
Just assumed.
sorry, I thought you were trying to
We
kid.
didn't think you were actually serious.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Macy?
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Severs.
Yes.
Trustee Sterling,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
No.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
You got it now.
Well done,
Good.
Tom.
Good finish on this one, Eric. Okay. Thank you very much. The motion.
We did it. Like, this
Yeah.
has been a long, onerous process and we did it.
And it's, I've been wondering for the last few weeks, like, did we just make a mistake ever approving this in the first place? And I think the answer is definitely no.
Right.
Because it's been a great process and getting all, 650 some comments on a social media post, 484 people tuning in for the survey. I think it's been an incredible amount of public engagement. I hope people stay engaged for much bigger things that will have much more impact.
Thank you, Godot.
Thanks,
Yeah,
ET.
thanks.
Thanks, Beckett. Thanks, Godot team.
No longer waiting for Godot.
No longer waiting for Godot. And with that, we move on to our discussion item of the evening. And Peter, it's you, starring you again.
Right. Well, thank you for that. That was awesome. I'm glad that we can finally see the end of the road on.
The end of the road should have been our tagline.
Where the sidewalk ends. Remember? Hey, Peter, go ahead.
Okay. So
Got 22 minutes, hopefully.
for this discussion item, I'm going to be talking about the events that town was involved in organizing in 2023 and what our current outlook is for town involvement in events for 2024. So, once again, I will share my screen. All right. So, in 2023, we were involved in 3 events, Netter Days, the 4th of July Parade and Potluck, and the Holiday Mountain Market. There's been some talk about why town involvement, and specifically like why we need to be doing like hosting events. So I just kind of want to recap where or what came from those events and the reasoning behind why we're in them. So first of all, why were we involved in planning anyways? So it was really to address a lot of issues that we had seen cropping up with the loss of other large events like Frozen Dead Guy Days, or just the need to revitalize or revise our special event and public space rental process. So these are some of the things we identified. You've probably seen the first one or heard it, just the idea that we hate events. Honestly, like I want to just come up here and say that's not true. You know, we want to see cool and interesting and exciting things come to town. But if we want to actually be able to follow up and say, and be able to defend ourselves, we need to, you know, step up. We can't just have events leaving because they don't feel like we are working with them or because the town isn't structured for it. We need to be involved better than we are. Another reason we would be stepping in is because we're already doing a lot of that work. If it just streamlines the process, if it's something that town is expecting of us, then there's no reason for an outside entity to go through the permitting process if we are going to do all the setup, organization, tear down anyways. 4th of July was a great example of that. You know, one person put in the special event permit, but then it really fell onto the Parks Department to get everything rolling, at least in the last couple of years. There's also the idea if we don't, then it simply will not happen. This was the case with Holiday Mountain Market. They actually approached us to take over since Nederland Area Seniors was not looking to pursue it for 2023. And also it gives us an opportunity to focus on things that are interesting to the community instead of trying to just get as many people from down the mountain up here to, you know, come to a big music fest or whatever. We can actually, you know, get feedback directly from the people around us to craft better events that speak to Nederland as a whole. So, like I said, in 2023, we did 3 events: Netter Days, 4th of July, and Holiday Mountain Market. The reason why we got involved in all 3 events is actually different for each event. So I'll just kind of go in chronological order, starting with Netter Days. This we actually started talking about in late 2022. I want to say November, around then. We were getting a lot of comments about wanting to see more local community focused events. And also something that was akin to, say, the earlier days of Frozen Dead Guy Days before it became as big as it was, that the community could enjoy. We had never put on a large scale event ourselves, so we reached out to an outside organizer. We brought in Stephanie Andelman, who does the Nederland Jazz and Wine Festival, to help us kind of form this whole idea that became Netter Days. When we were initially talking about it, it was just like a sledding event. That was the only thing I had in my mind. So she kind of helped expand that idea and tie in more community stuff. We wanted to try out a lot of different things because we're still new to this and just kind of see what stuck. We also really tried to mine old events that happened. Like there was apparently at one point a half pipe that was set up on First Street. So we wanted to do something like that without the liability. That's where the sledding event came from. Or what was another one? Like the barn dance, bringing that back. So this led to this idea of town organizing a few large events kind of as anchors, and then drumming up community or business sponsored events to get traffic kind of flowing through the whole town. We tried to strategically locate our events in ways that would help people move through the entire town, not just stay clustered, say, on East First Street, to spread that love to all the businesses in the downtown area. It also helps that we had events happening all throughout the day, just like early in the morning all the way to late in the evening. The overall budget, which we got from two sources, was $11,000. The majority of that came from our proposal to the NDDA, which I attached the document for that. And Stephanie helped by reaching out to local businesses and drumming up the other 2,500. I included a quick blurb on staff time usage. If you look in the post-mortem documents I attached, that has a more comprehensive breakdown of how we got these numbers.
Peter, can I just super quick, I just added one thing for the staff time when I uploaded everything to the packet. I think it's important to note that in the breakdown Peter provided, you have a lot of salaried staff who supported with this, and so our hours don't totally calculate. So what's there are hourly staff, but that's not overtime. That's just really taking what an hourly staff member's wage is and how many hours they worked. In many cases, that was a part of their regular 40 hours. So I just don't want anyone to get super caught up on those staff numbers. It was just, again, for just kind of some context, because it was asked of us by the two trustees who wanted this brought forward.
So we saw a lot. First of all, thank you, Miranda. I didn't even think of that when I was creating this. So we got a lot of good information out of Netter Days. There was a lot of good things that happened. There was a lot of less good things that happened, such as the weather. It was very unpredictable for being March. One of the main reasons we wanted to do this event was to try and bring community together to help support our local businesses during the mud months. But as we saw, March 24th was a bright sunny day in the like mid 50s, and then the following morning was 20 degrees with 40-mile-per-hour winds. So it is impossible to control that. It's possible to plan around it, but not control it. I do think we overextended ourselves. We had just too many events happening. We didn't see a lot of volunteer or staff support for some of them. We did include merchandise, which was cool, but as you'll see in that financials, we did not break even on that. That was the only place we didn't break even. We are still selling that merchandise. We've almost kind of hit that break even point on it, but in the future, one of the things I learned is we probably don't need to put so much of an emphasis on selling things specifically, unless it can be part of the core event. There is still interest. I'm getting a lot of people asking me, what are we doing for Netter Days this year, which I will get to. But so it is good to see that there was a lot of things that worked really well. But one of the big takeaways we got was that Nederland isn't really a theme to centralize an entire event around. Like, it's cool, it's where we live, but what was the core theme? There really wasn't one, and having one could have really helped. If it was, say, like Nedfest was a good example. It was a music fest first. That was the core theme around it. Netter Days didn't really have that. It had a lot of things happening that weren't necessarily tied together. So it made me really think about like the overall approach. I talked a lot with other visitor center or Chamber of Commerce people in other cities that put on similar kinds of themed events to get an idea of what works, what doesn't. And one of the things that came up was like thematic days. So instead of having one large event, one big Nederland festival, breaking it into smaller things that can be ran, say, out of the visitor center, and do like our Day of Art last year is a great example of that, where the visitor center can say, hey, it's art day. Let's do something art related, and people can join in around maybe one event that we put on to kind of get the ball rolling. But I'll get more into detail on that. So that was Netter Days. A big endeavor, but a lot of good lessons learned out of it. Next up, we have the Independence Day Parade. This is something that we've been involved in a lot in the past few years. Most of that falling to Nikki's team in the Parks Department. In the past, it was organized by Salto and Tinshed. In a sense, they basically turned in an application and we did the rest. So it came down to just why don't we just do that ourselves and save everybody some time and effort. We also identified some issues that were coming up. I know that they didn't, the clock tower people didn't want to put in a lot of effort when it came to like organizing or getting the word out. We also saw that there were complaints about like past announcers and littering and things. So we thought we could try to help stymie that by keeping everything in-house. Kind of late in the planning. I can't remember exactly where the idea came from, but someone suggested potluck, and the idea stuck. Since we haven't been able to do fireworks for many years at this point, we still saw a desire to do something else to kind of keep everything going. Everyone was already coming into town, into the downtown area. So we wanted to capitalize on that to just make something a bit more meaningful than just the one or sometimes two loops of the parade. So we organized a potluck. We reserved Chipita. Brian from Parks had brought out his music equipment and he was playing music. The streets team got out a grill. We supplied burgers and hot dogs and asked people to bring a dish. And it was a huge success. So we saw like 100 people or so turn out to the potluck. And that was only after like 2 weeks of organizing. So very happy with just seeing the desire there. The idea was, like I said, to just create something that was more satisfying and memorable for our community, that kind of tied into the overall spirit of what celebrating 4th of July is anyways. Made sure it was open and welcome to everyone. I brought some lawn games that I had and I just put them out into the field and let people go with them. The entire budget came out of Parks. It was just them basically getting extra decorations for the parade and getting picnic stuff, food, plates, utensils, stuff like that. So it was already stuff that was in our budget to begin with. And it just seemed like a good use of our funds and staff time for that. Yeah, the big takeaways were that this is a great idea and we want to expand upon it in any way possible. I did talk with the fire department last week about the potential for fireworks, and that was a big no. So he did give me a few ideas for alternatives that we can look at. A lot of them are expensive, but perhaps we can look at outside donations. But The biggest thing to take away from this event is that there is that desire to see more things like this happen. And I want to explore that. It took almost no effort on our end and added a lot, I think, to the overall sense of community.
It's also the only one where we can count on the weather.
Well, it did rain a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
This last 4th of July. I had this whole like area for tie-dyeing t-shirts that I was going to bring, and we couldn't do it because it was raining. So we can almost rely on the weather. And then, yeah, the third event we worked on was Holiday Mountain Market. This kind of came out of left field back in, I want to say right around the 4th of July. I met with Nederland area seniors who asked if we wanted to take it over because they just didn't have the bandwidth to do it anymore. And I said, sure, I don't have too much going on right now. This event overall, I think it was a great thing for me to be involved in this because it helped identify what town involvement in events looks like moving forward. They, fortunately, since Holiday Mountain Market has been going on for also years at this point, I had a lot of notes to work off of, so I didn't have to create everything from scratch, which was super helpful, given how little-ish time I had to plan and get everything built up. Since it's a craft fair first, it didn't take a lot of, needing to buy a lot of things. We were able to do most everything. In fact, I would say we were able to do everything in-house, period.
Peter, I'm gonna jump in. There's a 2-minute warning, just so you guys know.
Motion to extend
Second.
till 10:15?
I'm not gonna say that.
Okay. Did you get much feedback from the vendors? Was it good for the vendors?
Yeah.
Just a second. I think we gave a vote.
Yeah.
Do a vote.
All right. Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Miller,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
No.
Trustee Sterling,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
and Trustee Coombs Ismail.
No, thank you.
Okay, the motion did pass.
All right. Well, let's see how quickly I can wrap this up.
Good.
So yes, we did get a lot of good feedback. I'll get to that in a second. Yeah, big things for the overview. Kind of kept the same overall theme: craft fair, live music, food vendor to run outside of the kitchen here. So we didn't spend anything that wasn't staff time. I did all of the pre-planning and organizing myself, and since I'm salaried, that really helped. I spent about 60 hours ahead of time. We did have some help during the event, both with community center staff and I had folks from town hall and the visitor center help just be available to move things or set up and tear down. So staff time was also pretty minimal. We did have direct revenue from this event in the in booth fees and table and chair rentals. So it was nice to see that we covered our initial staff expenses before the event even started. So we were going into it in the black. So every sales thing or every sales tax number is just a bonus. Big takeaways. I am going to get more help in the future because I did kind of take on everything myself. Did get a lot of great feedback for future shows from the vendors. They liked the new layout that we set up. It was crowded, so we are going to try and utilize more of the overall community center space. And I did have people actually volunteer to help be just helping hands during the show. So I'm going to utilize that asset. So I'm not having people work outside of their hours when need be. All right, so like I kind of mentioned, the big formative takeaway there though is we can create things that are a benefit to everybody instead of, paying to bring in a vendor or music. We can, for a minimal price, have the commissary kitchen rented out and then they can make the money and then we get sales tax off of that. We can have the music instead of hiring a band, have a local do it. They can set up, sell their CDs, shirts, whatever, and they get, everyone wins. That's the kind of approach that we are looking at for 2024. So we have 4 things that we're looking at. Netter Days in a different light. 4th of July again, the Nederland 150th anniversary and Holiday Mountain Market. So the big change is for Netter Days. So instead of doing that big weekend festival, we are going to move it to be solely under the jurisdiction of the visitor center. And again, just kind of come up with different themed days that we can advertise out. And if people want to join in, great. But we're also not going to transform town to, force it on everybody. We can have different themes like Local Appreciation Day, where restaurants might do like a discount if you live in town. Historic scavenger hunter hunts, craft competitions, things like that. So these are all things that can be covered by our current budget, so we wouldn't need to go to the DDA, which is nice. And I am already working with the Day of Art crew to incorporate that into, or see how the visitor center can work into that. The first one that is coming up is going to be next month at the end of April, where I'm currently calling it the Thaw Out. Basically, let's celebrate our mud month. Everyone loved the hot cocoa trail from the first one. Let's bring that back and see if other businesses can come up with ways to like incentivize warming up for the spring, like warm weather or sales or things like that. My idea is to have the mugs back, reach out to the businesses that did the hot cocoa trail, see if anyone else wants to be involved or have other hot beverages, food, things like that, that they include. Make a nice little map. People come, they get the mug, they get the map, and they can just go around town. After that, we are looking at actually creating a business passport for the summer that will kind of expand on that whole idea, but incentivize people to do like hit multiple places throughout the whole summer months and then come back to the visitor center where they can redeem that for something cool. And we can theme all of this around Nederland's 150th birthday. Independence Day Parade, kind of already touched on this, but we're going to keep it going as it is, plus find ways to expand on it, see if we can do more with the potluck, see if there's anything we can do in lieu of fireworks that would be a satisfying alternative that wouldn't cost us tens of millions of dollars, which is what drone light shows costs. Looked into that, that wasn't fun. And we are also going to use that, since it's a month before the date we're doing Nederland 150, to kind of kick off the 150th anniversary, to get people excited to celebrate how old Nederland is. For 150 itself, there's already a lot of things that are happening through Nederland Area Seniors and the Lions Club and the Historical Society. So I have been meeting with different groups over the past couple of months to get ideas. We're going to have a community dinner. We're going to have a big cake that everyone can kind of go into. And here soon, I'm going to start reaching out to businesses and the community to get other ideas and get other involvement. So this is going to be more community focused than, say, Netter Days was. We're not looking to bring people up. We understand that people are going to come up, but they're not our core demographic. It's going to be focused on the people that live in town. Yeah, here's just a quick rundown of things that are already on the docket. So we have our community dinner and barn dance by the steam shovel for Friday. We are going to have a parade, and one of the Nederland Summer Concert Series is going to happen on Saturday. And we're also looking at having a time capsule that we can apply, or that'll be sealed for 50 years for the bicentennial. Holiday Mountain Market, I'm really just going to try and refine on what we did this last year since I got a lot of positive feedback. Really work on that overcrowding, see if there's any other kinds of ways we can enrich the experience. I had an idea for crafts workshops that artists could do throughout the weekend. If maybe we can do outside stuff. I know it's cold, but Christmas makes people want to do that. And maybe even bring back the silent auction. So that is the rundown of last year and this year.
Well done.
Yeah, Peter, thanks for your putting that all together. That looked like a lot of work to put that together.
Also want to thank Miranda and Rita for helping me with numbers because it was a lot on everyone's plate.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks.
Holiday market was fun.
Yeah.
So the questions before, sorry, yeah, it was. The questions before the board, does the board have any questions or comments for the 2023 event summary or the plan for the 2024 events? And are there any specific directions the board has for us when organizing future events?
Come back and talk to us from time to time as these come together.
Will do.
And I just thought if something mountain bike oriented comes across your radar, I think that you would get support from at least a couple of us.
Will do.
The biggest thing I heard about the Independence Day is people really want to do 2 laps. And I know there's a lot of logistics to that, but a lot of people made a big effort to bring their vehicles and some came farther away and they were like, that's it. I won't do this next year. So 2 laps, I think, would be kind of a huge.
Yeah, I think we're already planning on doing 2 laps.
Just do 1 lap slower.
I was in it and trust me, those people were not happy.
Drive more slowly. No.
Independence Day
So
Grinch.
I would like to see, I really like the idea of focusing on the Nederland community. I think coming from town government, that makes a lot of sense. So kudos on that idea. I think, again, like I went on the Palisade Art and Chocolate Walk out on the western slope there, and it was really, really successful. And it drove people to businesses that maybe don't get or don't typically get high traffic. So maybe if we focus on those businesses, I think it's kind of like a rising tide floats all boats type situation. It's like, even just reading your report, seeing that like maybe an art-based business that doesn't see a lot of foot traffic, they benefit thousands of % more, right, than Very Nice Brewing, who already sees a lot of people coming in, and yet Very Nice Brewing will also benefit if the art gallery benefits, if that makes sense. So I think that focusing on, businesses that don't get a lot of traffic, that there's not a lot of incentive for locals to go to those businesses on a daily basis, that will help everybody if we have strategies that focus on them. I would also
back and take a closer look.
Yeah, right. I would also like to see more incorporation of Nederland nonprofits in these events. I think that nonprofits do a lot of work in this town, do a lot of heavy lifting, and that they should be afforded, I think, a little bit of room and a little bit of space to show off what they're up to maybe solicit some donations and memberships and things like that.
Totally.
So Holiday Mountain Market, it's one of those that I think is a great place for nonprofits. We used to line the hall.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to do that. A lot of them were actually out of the state this last year. It was weird.
Yeah.
But food pantry
During
will
summer.
participate.
Yeah. But yeah, I know that Mountain Forum will participate as well. So there's I think there's a lot of opportunity there in all of these events to incorporate people who are trying to get the word out and make sure that people are aware of the work that they're doing in the community, because it is hard for nonprofits to advertise. They often don't have an advertising budget, right? So these are events to make that happen.
For sure. I mean, towns, even just helping to get the word out for events that are already being organized by other groups, I think is super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I think looking at who's working really hard and not getting the exposure that they really need and making that the focus of these events will also benefit the businesses that have tons of through traffic already.
Peter, in the assessment of the finances, I know staff time was calculated as, the day of the event. but correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see what the lead up time was to the event and all the staff time that was dedicated.
Yeah, I
I
think
can chime in.
there it is.
Yeah, it's really, Trustee Sterling, that's really salaried time. And so as salaried staff members, we don't necessarily track our hours like that. And so all of the effort, I'm going to say 95% of it is Peter. So just want to offer a huge kudos to Peter on all that he did last year and all that he will do this year. And then a lot of that support came from people like myself or Rita or other town hall staff members who are salaried. And so we don't have that data to provide you. And so just kind of took a stab at staff the best I could using hours worked the day of the event.
I put an estimate for Holiday Mountain Market because I was the only one organizing, so I knew kind of what my hours on a week basis were dedicated just to that. But it's harder for other events where I have help from other departments.
Yeah. And, if the goal is revenue or profit, I mean, that's a piece of it that's not being factored in. Like, so, there's a potential that if, that it's just less because those hours aren't factored in.
I think what I think that there were some trustees who maybe had asked this to be brought forward who thought about this, but I just want to go back to Peter's original slide of like, why are we doing this? And Peter got into is to help change the narrative. It wasn't about how do we generate revenue. And yes, I think we can move to that in the future, but really this is about public engagement. Like this is Peter's job of like how to bring together our community and have them engaging and supporting our businesses. And so not only was it changing the perception, but it was really digging into why we created the role Peter's in. And I think he did an incredible job in year one. And we're only going to springboard from here and maybe move into more of that revenue generating. But this is about bringing the community together, and he was able to do just that over 3 incredible events.
Yeah, and I really do believe it is fundamentally the job of the business community to put on revenue generating events. That is in their direct interest, right? And it is something that happens across the country, right? That chambers of commerce and downtown authorities and things like that throw big events for their town and their businesses to generate revenue. And I think it's more successful. I think they have more flexibility, like in terms of branding and all of that when those are the people doing it. And it's also, they're the ones who need the business, so they know best on how to generate it. Like using town as a middleman for that, I'm not sure is the best way to go forward. I think that there's also knock-on effects from what Peter is doing. Right? If we hold these kinds of events that are focused on community building, there will be knock-on effects throughout the year. I walk into a store that I just never went into for whatever reason, right? Because there's some incentive for me to do it because I'm like taking a kid on a hot chocolate tour, right? I might go back to that store. So I think there's a lot of intangibles that these kinds of reports will never really demonstrate. And I just don't want to lose that. Like, I think it's like a forest for the trees kind of a thing. So, yeah.
And then just another
Thank you.
2-minute warning.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say, any public comments out there? There's no one in the room. Hearing none. Any more questions or comments for Peter?
Carry on. Nice
We
work.
can always let them know comments too after this meeting.
Also, just point out that since Saturdays, we have seen a number of other large events come into town. So yay. Yeah, I don't think we need to do Netter Days as that kind of intermediary anymore.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for all your work tonight on this, on both this and the Godot logo presentation.
Motion to adjourn?
Any public comment on non-agenda items? Public comment on non-agenda items? No one's in the room. Hearing none. Tom, what were you saying?
Something about motion to adjourn?
Second.
Macy?
Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Trustee Miller?
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon?
Yes.
Trustee Sterling?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone?
Yes.
Trustee Severs?
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The
Good
meeting
job.
is adjourned at 10:15 p.m.
Thank you, everybody.